Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize for the delay. Our special meeting went long tonight. Welcome to this City Council meeting this Monday evening, November 17th. I now call this meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Deputy Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Certainly, Mayor Newsom. Councilmember Diaz-Nash. Here. Councilmember Sverka-Goditsky. Here. Councilmember Fernandez. Here. Deputy Mayor Lorraine.
Here.
Mayor Newsom.
Here. We're excited to be here in person with options for those who choose not to be in person to participate virtually. There are several ways to participate. For those attending in person, please complete a yellow request to speak slip and hand it to the deputy clerk. If you're participating remotely, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom and you will be called on at the appropriate time. If calling in via phone, press *9 to raise your hand, and when called upon, press *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for each specific item. Tonight, we will begin with ceremonial items. Ceremonial item number 1 is ReThink Waste Trash to Art Contest Winners Recognition. I invite to the podium Clara Cody from the Environmental Education Fellow from ReThink Waste. Welcome, Clara.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Reno Segura. Claire is not here tonight, but I am the Environmental Education Coordinator, and this is our new fellow, Emily Rose, and she is part of our Environmental Education team. Thank you for having us tonight. I would like to just introduce our contest. So this is actually for the poster contest, our 13th annual poster contest. This year, we had a prompt that was for compost critters. So we put it out to all 3rd through 8th graders in our service area to illustrate what they believe critters in the compost would be doing and giving back to our environment. So I am here today to present a few of our winners. We have a 2nd place elementary school winners, Min from College Park Elementary. Min, you can come up. We also have our 1st place winner from our middle school, Penny from Bayside Academy. And we have our honorable mention from middle school, Evie from Bayside Academy. Congratulations.
All right. Well, we have some certificates of recognition for Evie, Maine, and Penny. Penny, is that the 3rd one? Yes, and Penny. So we're going to come down and present them with you and take a photo. Our 2nd ceremonial item tonight is a proclamation, and I'll invite Mr. Chris Eckert to please approach the podium. And I'll start with a proclamation, and then I'll give you a few minutes to talk.
Perfect.
Okay. Whereas the city of San Mateo is proud to recognize Chris Eckert as the title sponsor for the Central Park Music Series for the third time in a row. And whereas Chris Eckert love for the city of San Mateo and the Central Park Music Series is evident, as he's been continually supportive of this community event for over 15 years. And whereas Chris Eckert has been a longtime resident and a dedicated business owner in the city of San Mateo, and whereas due to these efforts, the city recognizes Chris Eckert for being a committed community partner. And whereas Chris Eckert is fondly referred to now as Mr. San Mateo for his impressive outfits, which are always on theme, as well as his friendly and caring personality. And whereas Chris Eckert provides a premier VIP setup that elevates concert viewing for the next level. And whereas Chris Eckert has happily emceed the Central Park Music Series events and supported Intermission Police Activity League's raffle along with Chief Barberini. And whereas the city of San Mateo is grateful to have Chris Eckert stand as a constant representation of community pride. Now, therefore, I, Robert Newsom, Mayor of San Mateo, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim Chris Eckert title sponsor for the San Mateo Central Park Music Series. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor Newsom. Thank you, City Council staff. I'm honored by this recognition. I absolutely love the music series. And, I was thinking about this. I thought 15 years, that's a long time. That means that the year one, some of the kids that came for the shirts and the bubbles that we give away are now of home buying age. And you know what? I know are really good realtors. So, I'm kind of in a perfect position for that. But I wanted to thank you for this. I've lived a bunch of different places around the country, but I feel more a part of San Mateo than I've ever felt about any community. So I'm happy to be called Mr. San Mateo. That's an honor. So thank you for the recognition. I definitely appreciate it.
All right. And Mr. San Mateo, we're going to come take a photo with you. So hold on one sec.
Thank you.
Okay. And now our third ceremonial item, a proclamation for Small Business Saturday. I invite to the podium Erica Wood, the CEO for the San Mateo Area Chamber of Commerce. And with her is Mackenzie from the downtown San Mateo DSMA. I'm botching the name. Sorry.
Well, good evening, Mayor Newsom, council members, and city staff. As you know, Mateo Area Chamber of Commerce. And to my right here is Mackenzie Jacobic with the Downtown San Mateo Association. We are here and we're excited to talk about our third annual Shop Small to Win Big campaign. This is, of course, in celebration of Small Business Saturday, which is a national movement. Just for some context, there are about 36 million small businesses nationwide, employing 63 million people, which is about half of the U.S. workforce. And I think of these as the gems of our local communities and the heartbeat of our local economies, just like Mr. San Mateo, who you heard from. So they're deserving of our support. And that's why we are so honored to partner with the DSMA once again to promote shopping with purpose and to promote shopping small, not just during the holidays, but before and after the holidays as well. This year, we've been inspired to put a spotlight on some of the local retailers that make San Mateo so special, and you'll hear about those in a moment. And we're probably all starting to see the Black Friday ads, yes? So we're here to say that there are alternatives to the big box rush, and you have a chance to invest in local dreams and local families when you shop local. We are so grateful to this city for your continued partnership and support of this campaign, and I'll turn it over to Mackenzie to tell us more.
Thank you so much, Erica. I'll just give you a few more details about Shop Small to Win Big this year. This year's going to run for 2 weeks, starts November 28th through December 12th. During that time, anyone who shops small within the city of San Mateo, if it's $1, if it's $1,000, you'll have the opportunity to enter a drawing to win prizes. And we're thrilled to have prizes donated from many wonderful San Mateo businesses, including Elements Massage, Family Beauty, Porterhouse, Susan's European Beauty, Avenida, and more. And it's a win-win because the shoppers get to support local commerce and they get a chance to win something extra special. And then as an additional treat for those shopping in downtown San Mateo on Small Business Saturday, which is November 29th, DSMA is hosting a special Sounds of the Season pop-up performance from noon to 4:30 with Melodic Outreach Endeavor, which is a group of Aragon High School musicians. So stop by B Street and enjoy some music and community, and I'll be there with some information about how you can shop small in San Mateo. The final piece of our Shop Small to Win Big campaign is putting a face and a voice to the small businesses of our community. We'll be featuring 4 video profiles of San Mateo small business owners. These videos, produced by Gary McGill of GM Films, will share personal stories of what it means to own and operate a business in San Mateo, highlighting the passion and dedication that goes into every local purchase. Our featured businesses this year are Awesam Floral Company, Anatolian Market, Gator Games and Hobby, and Golden Moon Gallery. And we would love to now share a short video introducing you to Steve Long and Awesam Floral Company.
It was funny that if you look where Hillsdale is, it was just nothing there, was just empty. And then the store, I saw them, my uncles, my father, they built the store up from, they just started from the bucket stand that they started. Before they had the bucket stand, they were in the produce. And so they made the decision to move on to flowers, because that would, somehow they thought that was a little bit more lucrative that they could do. They were able to work hard, and they were able to just build on to the property little by little. And then the crowning achievement, I think, was when they opened up all the greenhouses in the back there. And as a young kid, it was pretty good running through the greenhouses, seeing all the beautiful plants and flowers that we were growing. Well, the San Mateo community is growing. New people, we have our old customers that we're taking care of, that have been with us all along. And then also too, we're getting to meet new members in the community, and they're always coming in. And it's really nice talking to the past and then moving forward to the new people that are coming in, and they're different values and the way they think about things, and it's very nice. You got the old and the new in San Mateo.
Thank you. Last year, our 2024 video campaign was a resounding success. The videos were watched by more than 26,000 people, and our dedicated landing page was viewed by nearly 1,000 users. These numbers demonstrate the significant community interest and reach we're able to generate with this initiative. You can learn more about Shop Small to Win Big at dsma.org/shopsmall2025. And be sure to follow Downtown San Mateo and San Mateo Chamber on social media to stay up to date and see all the videos. I also, for those of you in person, will leave postcards at the back there.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
will now read a proclamation. Whereas the city of San Mateo, California celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. And whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 34.8 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 65.3% of net new jobs, and small businesses employ about 59 million people, which is approximately 45.9% of the United States workforce. And whereas 67 cents of every dollar spent when a small business in the U.S. stays within the local community, and every dollar spent at a small business creates an additional $1.50 to $3 in local business activity as a result of the employee and local business purchasing local goods and services. And whereas 59% of U.S. consumers aware of Small Business Saturday shopped or ate at a small independently owned retailer or restaurant on Small Business Saturday 2024. And whereas the city of San Mateo supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as the public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Robert Newsom Jr., the mayor of San Mateo, and on behalf of the entire city council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 29th, 2025, as Small Business Saturday. And we urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday, celebrating its 16th year in 2025, and shop small throughout the year. Congratulations. Now we'll come down for a photo. Oh, we apparently have a public comment on this. So we will open it up to public comment, and don't go away because we'll take a photo. So
Thank you, Mayor Newsom. Our speaker is Rory Lynn Antonio.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Rovi Lynn Antonio with the California Apartment Association. Totally impromptu, but when I saw our esteemed leader here, Erica Wood, Chamber of and CEO of San Mateo Chamber and DSMA as well. Thank you for your leadership both. I wanted to be here to speak as a board member for the San Mateo Area Chamber of Commerce and to express support of the program and the promotion that our small business leaders are doing for the city of San Mateo, and for the people watching at home. You know, if the city of San Mateo want to continue having very unique shops, merchants that truly speak to the needs and the demand of local San Mateo residents, then they need to get out there and go shopping local on Black Friday and not go online. So just wanted to say thank you to the city for that recognition and to our small business champions here. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you for that. And if we could have you come back up to the dais, we'll come down for a photo. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Shopping on small business. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now moving on to the consent calendar items. And with this, we're moving beyond the ceremonial portion of tonight's meetings, which includes the business items being considered for the council. For that reason, I would like to remind all in the room and online that we'll be enforcing our rules of decorum. As such, we do not allow for cheering, jeering, or booing during the business portion of the meeting, as this tends to put a chill on public comment. Our goal is to ensure that all perspectives are heard. Our motto is give respect, get respect, and we appreciate your cooperation with this. Deputy City Clerk, could you please read the consent calendar?
Certainly, Mayor Newsom. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Item number 4, authorization to provide comment on proposed FCC rulemaking addressing wireless facilities approval. Item number 5, Office of Traffic Safety approval and appropriation. Item number 6, development impact in lieu linkage fees and wastewater capacity charges annual report. Item number 7, increase wages to comply with City of San Mateo minimum wage regulations approval. Item number 8, defer compensation program administrator and investment advisory services consultant approval. Item number 9, salary schedules adoption. Item number 10, ceremonial street naming policy adoption. Item number 11, emergency management staff training and San Mateo County Measure K grant agreement. Item number 12, Delaware Street Safe Routes to School Corridor Bike Lane Improvements Agreement. Item number 13, Second and El Camino Real Sidewalk Repair Projects Agreement. Item number 14, 477 9th Avenue reversion to acreage, final map and subdivision improvement agreement. Item number 15, meridian barriers approval. Item number 16, electric irrigation vehicle procurement for Parks and Recreation Department agreement. Item number 17, San Mateo Call Train Station North Access Improvement Project Design Service Agreement. Item number 18, Emergency Vehicle Lighting and Equipment Upfit Services Agreement. And finally, item 19, Staff Augmentation Services for the Wastewater Treatment Plan Amendment.
Very good, thank you. Is there any member of the council who would like to pull an item from the consent calendar? Seeing none, we will now open this up to members of the public who wish to comment on consent calendar items only. Now would be the time to make your comment. Again, this is for consent calendar items only. If you haven't already, please bring your slips up to the front.
If you wish to speak on consent items only, and you're participating in our virtual environment, please raise your hand now. If you join us in person, please provide me with your request to speak form. I will be now closing the request to speak period and announcing the names for our speakers. We have 7 requests to speak on consent calendar. Per our rules and procedure, that is 3 minutes per speaker. I will begin with our speakers in chambers and we'll move on to our virtual environment. The last speaker in chambers is Sam Chang, and our last speaker in our virtual environment is Brendan Aiello. Our first speaker, when I call your name, please kindly stand to my right. And our first speaker is Lindsay Reich.
Good evening, Mayor Newsom, Deputy Mayor Lorraine, council members and staff. I'm speaking on behalf of No Sellouts regarding the FCC proposed rulemaking on wireless facilities. Our prior attorney, Ariel Strauss, who helped the city attorney's office develop San Mateo's wireless ordinance and design standards, notes that these rules strike an important balance between technical needs and protecting our community. The FCC's proposal to limit local authority would violate the Telecommunication Act of 1996 and the 10th Amendment powers reserved for states. It also tries to sidestep the Ninth Circuit's ruling in the City of Portland versus United States, which confirms that cities have the right to address aesthetic concerns and prevent public harms from poorly sited towers. San Mateo's ordinance lets the city set aesthetic and setback standards while requiring applicants to justify exceptions. This protects neighborhoods from visual clutter and potential property impacts while still allowing upgrades that are truly needed. Wireless providers cannot be relied on to protect the public interest, and the city must retain the authority to determine which projects actually qualify for federal preemption. Complying with the FCC's shot clock does not create an effective prohibition, and the regulations remain fully compliant with federal law. The public record should also be corrected. Our ordinance is not based on emissions. The FCC should cite the actual text of our city ordinance instead of news articles like the Daily Journal. And the FCC's emission studies are over 30 years old. Despite global research, the FCC relies on outdated studies while 5G is being deployed. The city should clearly communicate to the FCC that local authority over placement, design, and review of wireless facilities is legally protected, and residents' concerns must be respected. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Robert Kiss, followed by Sam Chang. No, we don't have a video. Our last speaker in chambers is Sam Chang.
Hi, I drew the short straw, and I'm going to be reading something from Ariel Strauss that I was cold called as well. So let's see. Dear Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council, and this is a letter that is 2 pages. I'm going to read a portion of it to fit within the 3-minute limit. And also, it was sent, I think, to all of you, and definitely to the City Attorney and Associate Attorney. So this is from Ariel Strauss. As prior attorney to No Sellouts in 2023 and 24, I worked closely with the city's attorney office and the city's outside legal counsel, TripMay, to develop the city's current wireless ordinance and design standards. This is a carefully designed and thoughtful regulatory approach, and I commend the City Council for enacting it. I write today to urge you to protect this important legislation. In proposed rulemaking, eliminating barriers to wireless deployments, docket number 25-276, the Federal Communications Commission proposes to roll back local zoning authority in numerous ways that violate the Telecommunications Act of 1996 and constitutional 10th Amendment powers retained by states. My comment focuses only on the FCC's proposal to limit the authority of localities to impose aesthetic requirements and setbacks for small cell facilities in the right of way, and also potentially macro towers as well. It is entirely inappropriate for the FCC to cite the San Mateo Daily Journal for a description of the city's permitting regime instead of the text of the officially published ordinance itself. But that is exactly what it does. The Daily Journal article claims that San Mateo will, quote, mandate setbacks of small cells anywhere within 300 feet of a housing unit, unquote. There is no such mandate in the ordinance or design policy. The San Mateo ordinance, like virtually all modern wireless permitting regimes across the country, has an escape clause that allows limited exceptions to any of the city standards to avoid an effective prohibition. The city should communicate to the FCC to correct the record. The city's ordinance allows the city to set the aspirational aesthetic standards, such as setbacks, to minimize new visual clutter in residential areas, and appropriately places the burden on applicants to show that under specific circumstances, these standards are technically infeasible or unenforceable. In this way, the city protects aesthetics and prevents property value harms that would be caused by careless sitting while complying with the Telecommunications Act and enabling residents to receive upgrades to infrastructure that are truly needed. The city should tell the FCC that reasonable.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is in our virtual environment, and it's a phone number 650. Please state your name and unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yes, hello. This is Irina Mavridis. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. We, the residents of San Mateo and members of No Sellouts, support the city to formally oppose the FCC's proposed rule in docket 25-276, Build America, eliminating barriers to wireless deployments. As written, this rule would override essential local authority, weaken longstanding land use protections, and strip residents of any meaningful say in where wireless facilities are placed. San Mateo has adopted balanced, lawful standards that improve service while protecting public safety, neighborhood character, and property values. These regulations are not barriers, they are democratic safeguards. If adopted, the FCC's rule could allow antennas and towers directly in front of homes and schools with little or no notice. That is not progress, it's federal overreach. San Mateo's ordinance already complies with federal law. It sets reasonable aesthetic standards, including setbacks, to prevent visual clutter, while allowing exceptions when applicants prove those standards are technically infeasible. This protects our neighborhoods while ensuring needed upgrades move forward. When the city processes applications within FCC shot clock deadlines, it is simply not credible to claim that our process is an effective prohibition. Wireless carriers are pushing these new rules largely to expand 5G in-home broadband services that compete with faster, more reliable, more secure, and less obtrusive fiber optic internet. The Telecommunications Act was intended to support mobile phone service, not force cities to approve facilities for unrelated broadband markets. For all of these reasons, we urge and support you to oppose the FCC's proposal, defend San Mateo's ordinance, which we all worked so very hard for, and protect the community's right to maintain reasonable local control over wireless siting. Our neighborhoods, our voices deserve that protection. We thank you for your leadership. And I was hoping to play a video that I had emailed the city clerk's office, but I guess, is that something that you can still do? If I can, I don't know if I could pause my time for that. City clerk?
We did not receive this video 24 hours in advance per rules and procedures. Thank you.
I see. Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, well, I'll use the rest of my time just to say thank you again to all of the city council members that have worked so hard together with the community to make this really great ordinance. And it's really a shame that the industry is doing their usual tricks by going and twisting things, crying to the FCC, complaining. First they said that, oh, it's against the rules if you don't put these towers where we want. And when they got pushback, they are saying, okay, let's change the rules. So anyway, just wanted to say that and thank you to all. And again, truly thank you for your leadership. Have a good night.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kelly Ryerson.
Hi, City Council. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I wanted to thank you all again for all the work that we've done over the last 2 years. I think actually that this is indicative that we have poked the big bear in DC, and that is what the power of San Mateo can do because we stand up for our rights. And I really thank you for all helping and for continuing on this fight to make sure that we, the city of San Mateo, just gets to decide where these towers are going to be placed. I also am aware of a letter that I believe is going to be submitted. I am hopeful that I believe the deadline is today or tomorrow. I'm in complete support of continuing to do so. And I just, it's just so frustrating because I've been spending a lot of time in DC and I'm seeing a big uprising of different industries trying to do federal preemption and taking away local rights, which frankly, with the Republican government is surprising because they should be about state rights and local rights, but that is not what's happening. So thank you for standing up. And I would also recommend that any visits or trips to visit the FCC are probably not worthwhile because from what I've seen firsthand, the messages that will be coming are just straight from Verizon and industry. So once again, thank you so much for your continuing support and thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is, and last speaker in our virtual environment is Erin Roger.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Erin Ruger, and I'm the current owner of 628 Costa Rica in San Mateo. My husband and I appealed a small cell tower application at 620 Costa Rica several months ago and lost. I am commenting tonight due to two recent appeals that were recently upheld. Both appellants at 535 Clark and 201 West Bellevue appealed with a hearing officer. However, we did not receive the same treatment and appealed without a hearing officer. This feels unfair and inconsistent when it comes to city procedures. The appeals were thankfully upheld, and the applications were found incomplete due to key findings from the hearing officer, stating Crown Castle failed to provide a meaningful comparative analysis of alternative sites beyond 200 feet. The hearing officer's findings confirm what we were trying to argue, but didn't really get the chance because of the audience we were presenting to. The hearing officer found that the 200-foot limitation used to justify site selections was misrepresented by Crown Castle. These findings should invalidate previous approvals, like the application at 620 Costa Rica, granted under the same flawed assumptions. The hearing officer's decision provides the basis for revocation. Appendix C of the 2021 design standards states the city may revoke permits obtained through fraud or misrepresentation of a material fact. The city must exercise its authority under the master license agreement to correct these errors. I respectfully urge City Council to vote on a resolution rescinding all improperly issued small cell tower permits in light of the hearing officer's recent findings of the last two appeals in San Mateo Park. Thank you so much and have a good night.
Thank you. Mayor Newsom, that concludes public comment.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for your comments tonight. Okay. We will now see if there is a motion from the council to, comment.
If
Go
I
ahead.
may, through the mayor, before we make a motion, I'm wondering if the city attorney could explain what's on consent calendar tonight.
It's the interpreter.
And really just clarify what, we're trying to accomplish with this item.
Sure. So item 4 in the consent calendar refers to a FCC notice of proposed rulemaking regarding wireless facilities. And, it's an important item for a couple of reasons. One, because the FCC notice, I think as a public commenter mentioned, I think it mischaracterizes what the city's ordinance actually does. So it's important to correct the record in that regard. And the item, again, would give authority to staff, to myself and the city manager, to submit comments on the notice of proposed rulemaking. But also what the proposed rulemaking proceeding could potentially do is take away some local control on the siting of wireless facilities. So I also want to clarify, this is just the beginning of the process. It's not, there are no actual rules that are proposed. It's a notice of, again, proposed rulemaking. So there'll be another opportunity to comment before the FCC. But it's important, I think, that local governments and individuals do so and kind of make their heard before the FCC as to the importance of local control. So that's the item that's on the consent calendar, one of several.
Great, thank you. That was my only comment. I make a motion to approve consent.
And we have a second. Deputy Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Certainly, Mayor Newsom. Council members for Gogoditsky,
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lorraine,
Yes.
Mayor Newsom,
Yes.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Fantastic. And before we move on, I'd like to make two comments. One on the item 12, which was the bike lane on consent calendar. This is very near and dear to me in that it's in the heart of my district. And I want to say and commend all staff and city members who participated in this process. I think that the way that this was handled, hearing the concerns of businesses and the residents and all of the groups involved, was handled very well. And I think we can use this as a model for future projects like this. I think the outreach was great, and we really got to the root concerns of people and addressed all of them. So I'd like to, again, commend staff, city staff, for all of their great work on bike lanes for item 12. I'd also like to thank the city staff for working with Meridian to put up safe barriers in downtown San Mateo. This was a concern I brought up earlier in the year, and they will have safe barriers at the north and south ends of the Ped Mall, which will ensure that all pedestrians in the mall will be safe. So again, commend the city staff for all their great work on these two things. Does anyone else have anything to say?
I do.
Okay.
And number one, I support everything you just said. And thanks, staff. And I'd also like to point out item number 11, the Emergency Management Staff Training in San Mateo County Measure K grant. As we spend more time focusing on emergency preparation and management, receiving this grant was very special. It's going to enable a number of our staff to get training so that they can then help our entire city and community in future emergency preparedness efforts. So just wanted to call that out, and congratulations.
Thank you. One more.
Just to echo Councilmember Diaz-Nash, specifically that allocation came from Supervisor Corzo, so we should definitely thank her for earmarking that money for us. And I also just want to call out a long time. It's not a huge issue project, but it's one that is been on books for some time, and that's the San Mateo Caltrain North Access Improvement Project. It's right now there's only one way to access the train station in downtown from my district to North Central, and this will expand the ways in which it can be more accessible. So just want to thank staff for that work as well. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you again to all. And we'll now move on. Next on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public wishing to oh, I just did that. I'm sorry. Moving right along. Oh, no. No. Okay. All right. I'll just keep on going. Next on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda may address the city council at this time. State law prevents council from taking action on any matter not on the agenda. Your comments will be referred to staff for follow-up. The public comment section is generally limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, this is subject to council's discretion and can be extended if the council wishes to do so. If needed, an opportunity for additional public comment may also be provided later in the agenda. Deputy Clerk, can you please tally the total number of requests to speak on general public comment?
Certainly, Mayor Newsom. If you wish to speak on general public comment, please, and you're participating in our virtual environment, please raise your hand now. If you join us in person, please provide me with your request to speak form. We will now be closing the request to speak period for general public comment. We have 13 requests to speak on general public comment per our rules and procedures. That is 2 minutes per speaker. Our last speaker in our in-person environment is Michael Reagan, and in our virtual environment will be Amy Oshuto.
Thank you.
When I call your name, kindly stand on my right. I will call the first 3 speakers. The first speaker is Lindsay Reich, followed by Sam Chunk, followed by Martin Elliott.
Hello again. We are truly grateful that the last 2 appeals had hearing officer, and thank you to those council members who made that happen. Those 2 decisions were important because they confirmed what we have been saying all along. Crown Castle's repeated claims about a strict 200-foot limitation was not supported, and that misrepresentation affected permit outcomes. I want to speak about the clear problems we're seeing in both process and practice. 2 sites near my home, the first address is 239-249 Elm Street, and another one at 200 North San Mateo Drive, were approved on the basis of incomplete applications, and both were energized before final sign-off. Those facts, together with the hearing officer's findings, show a pattern: incomplete submittals, misrepresented technical claims, and construction practices that cause significant street and utility damage across the city. Appendix C of our design standards exists for exactly this reason. When a permit is granted through misrepresentation or on the basis of incomplete information, the city may revisit or revoke it. That authority is written into our rules for a purpose. We're not asking you to attempt wholesale revocation of every permit. Instead, we ask that you focus on a manageable set of the most problematic approvals, perhaps the roughly 15 to 20 permits closest to homes, or where the record shows clear misrepresentation and improper energization. Justice demands that these sites be addressed first. Residents across San Mateo, from the park to neighborhoods near my home, want fairness, consistency, and accountability. Please call a special meeting, review these clearly problematic permits, and use the authority available to correct what was done improperly. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sam Chank, followed by Martin Elliott, followed by Bernard Brown.
All right, good evening. I live at 401 Dorchester Road, and I've been a resident of San Mateo for over 20 years. I'm here tonight to urge you to take immediate action to rescind all improperly issued small cell permits in light of the hearing officer's recent finding in the last 2 appeals. First, the hearing officer's findings are clear. In both appeals, the applications were found incomplete. Crown Castle did not conduct a meaningful comparative analysis of alternate sites beyond 200 feet. And the 200-foot limitation used to justify those locations was misrepresented. If these assumptions were flawed for these appeals, then approvals granted under the same assumptions must also be reconsidered. Second, the city has a legal basis for action. Appendix C of the 2021 design standards states that permits obtained through fraud or misrepresentation of material fact may be revoked, and the hearing officer's decision establishes this misrepresentation. The tools are there, now they must be used. Third, fairness and consistency require retroactive review. Earlier appeals were denied the same fair process. Many, like me, requested a hearing officer, and we were refused. That inconsistent treatment undermines public trust. The rationale used in the upheld appeals should apply to all previous approvals. Tonight, I urge the City Council to exercise its authority under Appendix C and the Master License Agreement and revoke permits obtained through misrepresentation. This is our opportunity to do what's right for fairness, for transparency, and for the integrity of the city's process. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Martin Elliott, followed by Bernard Brown, and followed by Arimas Latikas.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I'm speaking tonight, excuse me, as a San Mateo homeowner who stands with the park community and all neighbors whose homes are too close to recently approved cell towers. Many of us are very concerned, in fact, quite upset, that dozens of permits were granted despite repeated warnings from the community. The recent hearing officer decisions confirm what we've been saying all along. Crown Castle was wrong about the 200-foot limitation, and these permits should never have been issued. While we are grateful that the last two appeals were finally heard by an impartial officer, many residents across the city never received that fair review. The result is a patchwork of approvals, leaving towers that were rubber stamped based on false claims and affecting neighborhoods far and wide. Excuse me. The city has clear authority to correct this. Appendix C of the design standards allows the director to revoke permits obtained through inaccurate data, and council can also vote on a resolution to rescind them. There are several legal pathways available to ensure consistency and fairness. We respectfully urge you to act, call a special session, vote to rescind the permits closest to homes, or direct the director to initiate revocation. Residents across San Mateo are watching closely and expect that their concerns and their legal rights will be respected. Acting now will demonstrate that the council values its neighborhoods and is committed to fairness. Thank you very much. And on a completely separate topic on item 20, as a homeowner in San Mateo,
Excuse me, we can wait for that once we reach the item 20.
Oh, okay. Darn it. You're good.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bernard Brown, followed by Arimas Latikas, followed by Steve Kirby.
Hi, good evening, council member, and thank you for all the work you have done in the last 2 years on these cell towers. I am not one having the cell tower right on my window. It was supposed to be there, but luckily it didn't go through. I was thinking of selling my house and moving out, but luckily it was stopped. Now, a lot of people are not in the same case as us. They have too many of these installations right under their windows. Mine was planned 8 feet from my television. So that gives you an idea. And people are suffering of this. And if it was not fairly treated because of 200 feet limit that Crown Castle implemented, I think it's time to review again these few cases, I don't know how many exactly, where people are not as lucky as we are and have this cell light beaming in their bedroom and things like that. And as well, the image outside and thing is not very good for the environment. So that's a point, and I hope you can see what's feasible within the law naturally to review these cases and maybe cancel these cells which are far too close to houses in San Mateo. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Arima Latikas, followed by Steve Kirby, followed by Alicia Woodfall-Jones.
Hello, City Council. My name is Aurimas Lutikas, and I am a resident of San Mateo. My day job is a staff software engineer at Google, working on Android. I would like to share you the latest developments on Flock automated license plate reader cameras that the City of San Mateo has signed $640,000 worth of contracts. There are 60 of these cameras today operating in the city, but there are some serious concerns about efficacy of these cameras and confirmed misrepresentations of the data by the company in their marketing materials. And also California state law breaking abuses of sharing that data with federal agencies. You can see that happening in Capitola report from November 7th. However, I'm here to talk about their lackluster software practices. As of September this year, these cameras were using Android 8.1, which is released in 2017 and stopped being supported in 2021, which is 4 years ago. This version of the OS has 900 known security vulnerabilities, including severe things like remote code execution. On top of that, these devices have an easily reachable physical button that you can press in a special pattern that will give you an unprotected Wi-Fi access with root access to the device, thus allowing undetectable modification of the video on the device. Researchers also found that the cameras store non-licensed plate videos, such as people passing by on a device as well. Additionally, they retain videos well past the 30-day limit, despite the flock privacy claims. A single researcher in his spare time this month was able to find 22 of these security vulnerabilities. This is unacceptable for a product that we, the city, pay $3,100 per camera per year. I call the City Council to mandate an independent security analysis of the flock hardware, especially if we intend to extend their contract in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Steve Kirby, followed by Alicia Woodfall-Jones, followed by Robert Kiss.
Good evening. My name is Steve Kirby. My wife, Arlene, and I live at 724 West Poplar in San Mateo Park. First of all, I want to emphasize that we are entitled to an unbiased hearing with an independent hearing officer also. Our attorney requested this at the time that we appealed. Our appeal was turned down and the committee did not oblige at all. In 2023, a posting was made in the pole in front of our house that Crown Castle was to install 5G facilities on the pole. The city of San Mateo had approved the application. No other correspondence was received. Consequently, in 2025, a neighbor alerted us that a 5G facility is going to be put in on the pole. We decided to appeal the approval of the application for many reasons. The pole was 32 feet away from our bedroom. The selected pole was not the least visually intrusive, and it was 6 feet away from our 100-year-old heritage trees. We are only 3 houses away from Hillsborough. It does not make sense to have 5G there when the city of Hillsborough has banned 5G. In accordance with Crown Castle's approved application, the soundness of the pole was said to be approved by PG&E. The pole has a 2 to 3 inch crack from top to bottom and has a 15-degree lean.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Alicia Woodfall-Jones, followed by Robert Kiss, followed by Michael Ragan.
Dear Mayor and City Council members, my name is Alicia Woodfall-Jones. It's an honor to speak with you tonight about the cell tower debacle. I thank city leaders and congratulate neighbors who had their cell towers revoked or removed from their neighborhoods. I was elated when recent appeals were granted by the hearing officer because it was finally acknowledged that Crown failed to provide compulsory evidence of their claims in their applications. These were right and just outcomes. And while these outcomes are wonderful, it's created a tremendous sense among my family and my neighbors of the incredible injustice. The circumstances and timing under the law for our appeal were no different than the ones recently overturned by the hearing officer. Our attorney, Ariel Strauss, requested informally, in writing, and to the S&I Commission that our appeal be heard by a hearing officer, citing the applicable city statute that provided for that. It was denied. The boilerplate language to which the hearing officer cited as the basis for upholding the appeal, specifically Crown's unsubstantiated 200-foot radius range limit, was the same in our appeal. I ask the city to equally and judiciously cancel the cell tower permits under your legislative powers. The basis has already been litigated and is a matter of public record. This has been a difficult journey for all of us. Please acknowledge where the law has been unevenly applied. Bring parity and allow us to move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Robert Kiss, followed by Michael Reagan.
Thank you to the council for your continued attention to the topic of small cell devices installed at in our residential neighborhoods. I'm speaking as an individual regarding small cell device permit application number 61 from Crown Castle on Parkwood Drive, which I appealed unsuccessfully to the commission in June of 2023. The proposed placement on light pole 5336 was about 110 feet from my living room wall and became my view of the outside world. My appeal showed that the alternatives analysis in the application was incomplete. I proposed 2 alternate locations on Parkwood Drive at about 260 feet and 425 feet from my living room, but at the same elevation environmental space along the abutment near Highway 92. Crown Castle refused to discuss the alternates I proposed, and the commission was at such an early stage in their understanding of the small cell topics that they quite honestly didn't know what they could or should do at that time. Fast forward to today, as you've heard from others, the independent hearing officer recently ruled that the Public Works Director's granting of exceptions to Crown Castle should be reversed based on inadequate justification of their stated 200-foot limitation. Crown's 200-foot limitation for assuring coverage objectives was unjustified and a misrepresentation of material facts. Under Appendix C of the 2021 design standards, the city can legally revoke permits obtained through misrepresentation. Based on this new information, I urge the council to take this up and consider voting to rescind all previously issued permits for small cell devices, specifically those placed within 200 feet of physical home structures. Crown Castle has repeatedly shown who they are and how poorly they behave. This includes damaged sidewalks and water leaks for which they took no responsibility, costing the city time and money. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next and final speaker in chambers is Michael Reagan.
Good evening. A couple of subjects. I had 3 minutes speech written, but I had to change it a little bit. Speed survey. I heard you guys put it together. It was not going to be done until fall, another year from now. I think that we've waited we've been out of compliance for 6 years. Police officers, the residents, the inability to write tickets is inexcusable, and it needs to be, you need to move it up if you can. The other problem is the traffic light at Hillsdale and Alameda that was supposed to be put in 2025 this last summer, and now you put it off another year. The school, the students, the residents can't wait for this dangerous intersection to be fixed. And I'm told the funding and the design are completed. Please get this project done. We have waited 8 years for this particular project. And thirdly, I reached out to the Bohannon Northwood group, as you guys had suggested, to set up a meeting with them. And I talked to Andrew Turco, and he's yet to respond. When this group does not have control of their meetings, their inability to meet with outside residents has been appalling. And I maybe you guys can get them moving along and helping us out. And I want to thank Danielle and Lisa. We met with Danielle on Friday, our group, Checkpoint Hillsdale, and we're meeting with Mrs. Nash on this coming Friday. And you, rest of you are all welcome to meet with our group. I think we had a very successful meeting the other day, and I think there's a lot of things that need to be said and done before this project is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Now moving into our virtual environment, we have now 2 speakers. Our first speaker is phone number 650, which I believe is Irina.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me again?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So good evening again, council members. I'm speaking tonight actually for Jeffrey Adams, who was not able to be there today, but he asked us to read a statement. We are urging you to adopt a resolution to have the city rescind the small cell wireless permits that were erroneously issued over the last several years. These permits should have never been approved, as each of them contained characteristics that were in violation of the city's design standards, including missing, incomplete, inaccurate, and misleading information, in particularly with regard to their inaccurate 200-foot limitation on their alternative site analysis. Other than aesthetic considerations, that alternative site analysis is perhaps the most important piece of the application, as it puts the burden on the applicant to make sure that the facilities are going into the community in a way that is most natural and conforming to the environment. In other words, that they're as least conspicuous as possible. Time after time, Crown Castle used our city's design standards, which, by the way, were voted on twice, unanimously approved, saying to you effectively, we don't care about your process and we will do what's the lowest cost and the easiest for us. An appeal hearing officer recently rejected Crown's incomplete approach, and conclusory statements that rejected the alternative sites indicated the burden is on Crown to demonstrate this and not just state it as fact. Each of the Crown applications in our city contained this misleading and incomplete alternative site analysis approach, and this should have been the basis for denial of these permits. I'm urging you to adopt a resolution to right this wrong that has been done to the residents and ensure a fair and consistent process for our city. Many appellants were not afforded the opportunity to go in front of the hearing officer due to the inconsistent manner that the appeals processes were conducted. Had they been afforded this opportunity, which they should have been according to city procedures, the hearing officer most likely would have rejected all of these permits as they contain the same misleading.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Mike Swire.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Mayor Newsom and members of the council. Mike Swire. I wanted to second what Michael Regan said about the speed surveys. I put in a records request over a month ago and have not gotten a response from the city. All I'm asking is to understand which streets have and have not had a speed survey done. Seems like a pretty simple request. I don't know why it's taken so long. Next, I'd like to mention that I spent some time in North Central the other day. I noticed that there were dozens upon dozens of commercial vehicles and RVs parked overnight on the street. Many of these remain immobile day after day. Effectively, this isn't parking. This is storage of private property on the public right-of-way, and it's against San Mateo code. If we're going to spend $3 million to add more parking in the neighborhood at $30K per spot, how many of these spots will be used for illegal commercial vehicles or RVs? Why isn't the city enforcing parking rules in North Central in order to improve access to parking instead of ripping out safe streets infrastructure on the most dangerous city street in San Mateo? Dr. Charles Hanson wrote an op-ed in the San Mateo Daily Journal recently asking the city prioritize the $15 million King Center revamp as the city struggles to address its long backlog of capital improvements. This includes roughly 100 municipal buildings, the repairs that could cost more than $360 million, including $77 million in urgent health and safety fixes. Keep in mind that the city is facing roughly $15 million in budget deficits in the coming years. Wouldn't it be better to focus on these critical needs instead of spending $3 million to rip out bike lanes next to San Mateo High School and Fiesta Gardens K-8 schools? And finally, there was a house recently listed for sale in Humboldt. It's on the side of the street where there currently is on-street parking. In 100% of the marketing pictures of the property, however, there are no cars present in front of the house. That's because on-street car parking decreases home values. How much will home values decrease if we add street parking to both sides of Humboldt? And what will be the impact on tax revenues? And how much will this cost San Mateo taxpayers? Thanks so much.
Thank you. Mayor Newsom, that concludes general public comment.
Can I make?
Yes. And before we go on, we have a council member who would like to make a comment.
Yeah, I would just like to ask the city manager, city attorney to make a comment and address the number of comments about the small cell.
Yeah, sure. So just as a backdrop, ordinarily, once a permit is issued and adjudicated, perhaps through an appeal, that permit, generally speaking, is final. Like there's no further adjudication of that permit. That's how the permit processes work, is to have that sense of finality. Once it's completed, once an appeal is done, it's over, unless the matter is litigated. And we have a couple of those small cell permits being litigated right now. However, in our 2021 design guidelines, it does give the Public Works Director the authority to revoke a permit, as has been mentioned multiple times, in different situations where, one example is if the applicant has submitted false information or misrepresented information as explained in the design guidelines. So it's not really for the city council to take action. It would be, if anything, the Public Works Director to take action. But there's a bit of a complication because I think there's been a lot of discussion about a couple of recent hearing officer decisions, and to take a conclusion of a hearing officer in one case and to apply it to previously issued permits can pose a little bit of a procedural challenge. But in any event, what we can do is we can certainly look into it and report back to the council, provide a written report back to the council as to what we think would be best course of action. Because, I understand what the members of the public are saying as to the 200-foot limit and what they're stating about the applicant Crown Castle, but there's some nuances here, and I think it's best to be explored a little more carefully, and then we can report back.
Great. I thank you very much for that. I think that would be a very important thing to do. And thank you to the community for coming and making public comment. Thank you.
Okay. We'll now move on to our next item of business, item number 20. This is public hearing, item 20, housing element implementation, tenant protections policy ordinance introductions. We'll have a presentation from Rachel Horst, our housing manager. Welcome, Rachel.
Good evening. Good evening, council members. Mayor, thank you. It's good to see you this evening. Rachel Horst, Housing and Neighborhood Services Manager. I'm joined by Eugene Albert, our Code Enforcement Manager, for this presentation this evening. So I will be presenting a bit of background, which includes updates from the April 21st study session, what staff has been working on since we received City Council direction then. We will be reviewing the two ordinances for which there is a public hearing this evening, and we will present our recommendations. So to anchor ourselves in this discussion, we'll return to the housing element policies, which were discussed at the April 21st meeting. The first of these is policy H3.4, which is to expand tenant protections at the local level to extend the measures of Assembly Bill or AB 1482 related to relocation, documentation, and the right to return in eviction cases. And specifically, the city committed to extending provisions of AB 1482 to require tenant relocation payments for no-fault evictions for those with a tenure less than 1 year. AB 1482, as a reminder, provides for 1 month of rent as relocation assistance for no-fault evictions for tenants with tenure 1 year or longer. The city also committed to staff researching and making recommendations to City Council for developing policies that require documentation from landlords when there is a substantial remodel eviction, and for researching a right to return policy for tenants who are displaced due to demolition or substantial remodels. The city committed to amending the code also to strengthen the enforcement penalty structure, to aid in protecting tenants from unsafe or substandard units, and finally, the city committed to conducting outreach to the community on a biannual basis. Under all of these bullet points is the timeline or time frame for implementation, which we have as 2024 to 2026, because each of these sub-policies had its own specific timeline. However, as part of the settlement in the lawsuit with Housing Action Coalition, or HAC, the city committed to completing these items by the end of this year. The other relevant housing element policy is H3.6, which relates to the status of rental housing in San Mateo, ways to monitor rental rates, evictions, and tenant displacement in the city. Staff were tasked with researching the options for a rental registry and making recommendations to City Council, which we did at the April 21st study session. The city also committed to collaborating with regional partners like 21 Elements or ABAG, the Association of Bay Area Governments, to develop ways of collecting data, specifically on rental rates, evictions, and displacement. However, I will point out that there is no such collaboration occurring right now with regional partners, and so that is why most of our discussion has been around rental registry concept at the local level. And the timeframe for implementation is the same as mentioned with the prior policy. In this chart, I have each item of City Council direction from the April 21st study session, and then the actions that staff has taken and presenting to you this evening. The first of these is to develop an emergency rental assistance program. This was not in the housing element, but due to the fact that most evictions are caused by non-payment of rent, which staff found in our research and presented on April 21st, the City Council directed us to develop a rental assistance program. On July 28th, the City Council approved this program, and it has been in existence since August 1st. It is administered by the partner organization Samaritan House. $150,000 were set aside for that, with $18,000 for administration. So far, we know that $23,850 have been spent from this fund, and that served 12 households. The second item that the City Council directed staff to do is to develop a policy extending AB 1482 relocation assistance for no-fault evictions for tenants with a tenure of 11 months or more. And also to require that the owner notify the tenant when a substantially remodeled unit is available. This will be reviewed again in the overview of the first ordinance, adding chapter 10.100 to the municipal code. The next item that the City Council directed staff to do was to amend the tenant relocation ordinance. This is currently in the code 7.50 to strengthen the ability of the city to support tenants who are displaced from a substandard or unsafe unit. And this will be discussed further in our overview of the ordinance that amends Chapter 7.50. City Council also directed staff to seek other ways to obtain data specific to San Mateo on rental rates, evictions, and other data that would be useful to give a snapshot of the rental housing conditions in the city. Specifically, we were directed to look into using the city's platform for business license applications, which is HDL, to see if there is an opportunity there to ask questions of the applicants to find out more information about rental properties. Staff did follow up with both the authors of the eviction study that we cited at the April 21st study session from Stanford Law School, and we looked further into the use of HDL for data collection. So I will go over that momentarily. And finally, staff was directed to improve outreach on current tenant protection policies in general, including AB 1482. For both tenants and landlords. So I'll touch on this a bit when I go over outreach since the meeting. We'll start with the additional data that staff sought out on San Mateo eviction cases. So as I mentioned, we reached out to the authors of the eviction study, which was led out of Stanford Law School, the Mills Law Clinic. And they did provide us with City of San Mateo specific numbers. As you can see, there has been an increase in unlawful detainers filed compared to 2019, in 2023 compared to 2019. This is a countywide phenomenon. We've seen this increase everywhere, and it is driven largely by non-payment of rent cases. One thing to note about San Mateo is that in 2023, as you can see in the second bullet point, this represented 16.75% of unlawful detainers filed in 2023, which is slightly more than San Mateo's share of the county's population. So there has been a marked increase. However, we can see from this statistic that, for example, in 2023, 92.5% of total unlawful detainers were non-payment of rent cases. And coupled with that, in 2023, only 13 cases were related to an issue other than non-payment of rent or tenant fault. So what we can see from this is, again, non-payment of rent is driving the increase. Also, AB 1482, which we've heard from legal service providers and others, it has played a significant role in no-fault evictions because it provides definitions and regulates no-fault evictions. And so we've seen likely the influence of AB 1482 here. Excuse me. In terms of outreach efforts, the staff has been over the summer working with Project Sentinel, and in October, on 2 occasions, I believe it was October 8th and 22nd, staff attended workshops led by Project Sentinel here in San Mateo for all San Mateo residents for tenants or landlords, information on tenant rights and any questions really that residents have about rental housing in the city. And we continue to work with Project Sentinel and hope that they will continue to hold events directly in the city. It had been some time since there was such an event hosted in the city. For the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, I mentioned there is already uptake of the program, and we do not believe that that is a one-off. This will continue to be something that residents seek out. The housing staff is receiving calls frequently asking about this program, and we direct them to Samaritan House. We have done significant media outreach on this program, and just recently developed a flyer that staff physically delivered to key locations. And we put it out in our e-newsletter and through other means to disseminate as much as possible. And this seems to be fairly effective. In addition to these 2 main outreach efforts, we are part of the Anti-Displacement Advisory Committee, which is led by 21 Elements, the regional collaborative. And this displacement survey that they've developed is currently still open until the end of November. So the city has also been pushing out that survey to try to get responses directly from San Mateo residents. We should have results by the end of the year specific to the city. As I said, it closes at the end of this month. Regarding the use of the business license, or HDL, when business owners apply for a business license, staff did look into this possibility where we could add questions upon submitting that application that could tell us about certain key characteristics of rental housing in the city. However, the city's authority to set any requirements related to the business tax is limited to the tax, enforcement of the tax. And so asking information about rental housing is not directly related to levying that tax. And so it would likely require a new ordinance. However, the city could request information on a voluntary basis. So we could ask questions like those that are listed here or find out about topics listed here, but it would be provided only on a voluntary basis. If the city council wishes to pursue this, staff would require 4 to 6 months to integrate this fully into the annual tax filing. And this is a question that we would like city council to deliberate. Does the city council support collecting rental data on a voluntary basis via the business license platform? And we will seek out the feedback on that when we get to our recommendations. Now to an overview of the ordinances which we are reviewing tonight. The first being the ordinance adding Chapter 10.100, the Tenant Protection Ordinance. This ordinance incorporates Civil Code Section 1946.2 by reference. This is the Civil Code section that implements AB 1482, the portions of AB 1482 which are relevant to the city being able to extend the provisions regarding relocation assistance. So again, the threshold is 11 months of rental tenure or longer. And what the ordinance does is include just cause provisions, noticing provisions, and relocation requirements of AB 1482. The applicability of the ordinance is the same as the applicability of AB 1482. So it applies to housing that's 15 years or older on a rolling basis. It has the same exemptions like owner-occupied duplexes, rent-restricted housing, or deed-restricted affordable housing, and so on. There is one correction that we would like to make, however, specifically to this section, 10.100.020. This should read a reference to, again, Civil Code, Section 1946.2B2. And so that bolded part is an addition that we would like to make. So should the City Council want to introduce this ordinance, we would do so with that correction, which simply makes it clear that we are extending this relocation assistance to tenants who are evicted for no fault reasons, specifically no fault reasons. In addition to that, there is a requirement in the ordinance to notify the tenant when a substantial remodel is completed. And this is directly in response to City Council's direction from the April 21st meeting. This is not a right to return to the unit, not a right to return at the prior rent, and it is simply a notification requirement so that the tenant is aware that the remodeling is completed and they have the opportunity to apply for that unit again. I will now turn it over to Eugene Alper to review Chapter 7.50.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Just to remind you that Chapter 7.50 is about protecting tenant displaced as a result of code enforcement action. So when a unit becomes uninhabitable, the property owners have obligations towards, and the property owners are responsible for maintaining those code violations. The property owners are responsible for paying what we call displacement or relocation benefits. The ordinance was adopted in 2019. So over the last 5 or 6 years, just to give you some sense, we opened 3,205 code enforcement cases in general. Out of this number, 36 were designated as tenant relocation. So it's a relatively minor, very minor number, just 1%. Out of those 36 cases, 11 were permanent relocations and 25 were temporary relocations. And out of all these relocation cases, 6 of them were appealed to the City Council. 5 were upheld. In other words, the city action was upheld by the City Council. And in one case, the City Council did not support the staff action. But this is just to give you a general idea of what the ordinance works. It's invoked relatively little because we try to resolve problems without having to relocate tenants or but sometimes it's just impossible because the units are unsafe. So the changes that we're proposing are basically 3. One of them is to change the appeal body because right now when staff takes action, the property owner or the tenant can appeal that action. And so they appeal it, and as it is now, they appeal it to the City Council. The proposed change is that to switch the appeal body from the City Council to a hearing officer. The second change that we're proposing is that give staff discretion to change the designation of temporary relocation to permanent relocation when it is based on objective circumstances. And the third change would be about changing the cap on temporary relocations. Just to remind you that when somebody is relocated temporarily, per today's ordinance, they can receive the amount that they can be received is capped at 3 times the HUD rent for the area. Now, we would like to propose to change that from the HUD fair market rent to general services rate per diem. And that would allow, if necessary, the tenant to receive more money. Now, this is not an automatic payment because every payment that the property owner would have to do, it would be based on the invoices and receipts that the tenant actually spent money on. But the cap, the maximum amount that the property owner may pay would be capped by the general services rate rather than the HUD fair market rate. So those are the 3 changes that we're proposing.
Thank you, Eugene. So the next steps, if the ordinances are introduced this evening would be to return for a second reading on December 1st, and then they would become effective 30 days after that second reading. There is a requirement in the ordinance, the one that I reviewed, tenant protection ordinance, to notify tenants of the ordinance. This is pursuant to this section, which I will not read out loud, of the ordinance, by February 1st of 2026. So if that becomes effective, that notification requirement kicks in. Staff will also continue to provide City Council with updates on implementation of all of these items through the annual progress report, which is for the housing element and occurs every year. In March, we submit that report to HCD April 1st of each year. So to the recommendations, staff is recommending that the City Council introduce an ordinance adding Chapter 10.100 to Title 10 of the San Mateo Municipal Code with the citation correction I noted earlier. To introduce an ordinance amending Chapter 7.50 of the San Mateo Municipal Code. To find the ordinances exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA Section 15061B3. And to provide direction to staff if the City Council wishes to pursue collection of rental property data on a voluntary basis via business tax certificate filing through HDL. With that, we thank you and look forward to your questions and feedback.
Thank you for a very thorough presentation. We'll now open this up to public comment. Deputy City Clerk, do we have requests for public comment?
Certainly, Mayor Newsom. If you wish to speak on this item and you're participating in your virtual environment, please raise your hand now. If you join us in person, item 20. I will need a new one. Thank you. Mayor Newsom, we have 22 requests to speak, including this one right here. So I'm waiting for that. Per our rules and procedures, that is 1 minute per speaker. Additionally, we do have a request for an organized presentation, and we're going to start with that. And that would be 5 minutes.
Yep. Can we take a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
And then we'll resume to public comment. Thank you.
Yes, we can take.
Back in 5. Thanks, folks.
Great idea.
before I do it, I'll be.
How are we doing in terms of number of, we already talked about this. How many people do we have for public comment?
We have 22 requests to speak on this item and 23, and that will be the last person on virtual environment is Amy. That's 23 requests to speak. Per rules and procedures, that is 1 minute per speaker. And we will begin with an organized presentation by Carol Eldridge.
Very good. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carol Eldridge, and I am presenting this evening on behalf of Our Home San Mateo, which is a coalition that was formed to support renters in their pursuit of greater housing security. It isn't easy being a renter in San Mateo. The rents are some of the highest in the nation, and they just keep going up. Next slide, please. The precariousness of renters' lives becomes painfully clear when rents are examined. Next slide. Okay. When rents are examined side by side with the incomes of any number of service sector jobs. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in San Mateo is $2,965. For a two-bedroom, it is $3,802. You see on the screen the incomes of some of our essential workers, all of whom make less than $5,300 per month. Some quick math suggests that many of our workers must be paying fully half of their monthly income on rent, and maybe more. The San Mateo housing element confirms that this is indeed the case. Next slide, please. The city's housing element also tells us that rents went up 75% over the course of 10 years. Wages, however, have not nearly kept pace. So the pressure on renters has mounted, with the fallout taking a variety of forms. I've already mentioned a disproportionate share of income being paid toward rent. It has resulted in high levels of overcrowding, families doubling up and tripling up, which results in living conditions that are not only cramped, but often unsafe. It has also meant that families have to make impossible choices between paying rent and accessing other essential goods, such as medication, food, and health care. Inevitably, it has also meant that many long-standing members of our community have been displaced, while others who are still living here exist in constant fear of being forced out. Again, it isn't easy being a renter in San Mateo. In the interest of bringing greater stability to their lives, the renter community asked the City Council to adopt a set of policies, all of them directed at discouraging no-fault evictions. Next slide, please. The renters consider these proposals to be modest in nature, modest, reasonable, all of them having been vetted by other communities. But even so, Council showed a disappointing lack of interest in them. At the study session in April, Council dismissed all 5 of them in the wake of brief discussion and without meaningful debate. We believe that they, both the renters and their proposals, deserved better than this. We fully understand the essential role of landlords. Renters need landlords, but landlords also need renters. It is a two-way street, and we cannot allow the interests of landlords to completely eclipse the needs and interests of renters. Next slide, please. We also know that the costs for landlords have gone up, most notably in the area of property insurance. But keep in mind that many property owners, I would say most, were able just a few years ago to refinance into historically cheap mortgages, enabling them to save potentially thousands of dollars every month in interest. They are protected from property tax spikes by Prop 13. And thanks to the July budget bill, SALT deductions were restored to their previous level of $40,000, a big win and an important source of savings to landlords across the board. Renters, on the other hand, have faced nothing but loss. Federal actions, most particularly the July budget bill, have taken away the supports that many middle and lower income residents have relied on for food and health care. SNAP benefits, Medicaid, CHIP, ACA subsidies, they've all been cut, leaving the lives of many San Mateo residents ever more fragile, ever more vulnerable to hardship. At the very least, the renter community would have wanted the council to do a deeper dive, a more in-depth consideration of the policies they had proposed. In Redwood City recently, the council was considering a policy to prevent displacement, and in an effort to inform the discussion, the staff hired a consultant to provide expert input on the feasibility and impacts of such a policy. This was not done in San Mateo, and it left the council in a weak position to decide on matters of great importance that had the potential to affect so many lives. Next slide, please. Especially with the recent losses the renter community has sustained, we believe that the City Council should revisit its discussion of eviction protections. We also believe that the city should get the input of the experts who can create a stronger basis on which to make these important and highly impactful decisions. This is a question of showing renters, who are half the population of San Mateo, the respect they clearly deserve.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll begin regular public comment for item 20. To ensure we get through all the public comments in a timely manner, when I call your name, please line up to my right. And I will start by calling the first three speakers. Our first speaker is Brian Ponte, followed by Jeff Lamont, followed by Frank Vento.
Good evening, Mayor Newsom, members of City Council. I have a few brief comments tonight. First, under AB 1482, tenants in California enjoy some of the strongest protections in the country. Imposing additional restrictions would be overreaching and placing a significant burden on housing providers and exposing them to unnecessary and potentially expensive lawsuits. Number two, the proposed protections are punitive and will only make it more challenging for housing providers to operate in this community. Finally, as I've mentioned before when I've been up here on the dais, instead of overreaching and punitive regulations, I ask you that you work with all stakeholders to find mutually agreeable and constructive solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jeff Lamont, followed by Frank Vento, and followed by Jess Hudson.
Good evening, council members. So I wanted to remind the council that rent control is not required by HCD or the MTC. I do want to applaud the City Council for their efforts on the emergency rental assistance. I think it's a great program, and I know it's being utilized. Also, improving and strengthening the red tag improvements. I urge the council staff to build on rental assistance program and the red tag program, align AB 1482, increase housing supply, tackle permitting constraints, and educate the tenants on and landlords on AB 1482, and utilize some of the other resources that are out there, like Project Sentinel. So I hope that you guys will take that all into account. And again, I applaud the City Council for their efforts on the emergency rental assistance program and the red tag improvements. One other thing I did also want to mention is while we're grateful that you are not considering rental registry, please continue to take into account that compliance and maintenance costs, even on a voluntary set of questions, will impose costs and expenses on the housing providers.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Frank Vento, followed by Jess Hudson, followed by Fernando Peña.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. Frank Vento, lifelong resident of San Mateo County. Chapter 750 doesn't really stipulate why the unit is uninhabitable. I've managed properties for clients, and a lot of times the uninhabitable conditions are created by the tenant. So that may want to be added in there if you move forward with that. The chamber also did their first presentation, and the city council was enthusiastic about small businesses in San Mateo. Landlords are small businesses in San Mateo. Show them some support. So we got three basics: food, clothing, shelter. Are you putting restrictions on clothing stores and food stores, or just housing? I understand housing is super expensive. The solution is it's supply and demand, and build more housing and you solve the problem. Putting restrictions on housing and landlords isn't going to solve the problem. It's a Band-Aid.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jess Hudson, followed by Fernando Peña, followed by Teresa Gebler.
Good evening. I'm Jess Hudson. Tonight, I will be speaking on behalf of the San Mateo County Anti-Displacement Coalition. I'll mostly be talking about relocation assistance, but before we start, no one has mentioned that AB 1482 sunsets in 5 years. It's an impermanent law, and to rely on protecting your residents with an impermanent state law is short-sighted and, quite frankly, really irresponsible. So let's do some quick math. The average rent here is $3,600. You got to pay first, last, and deposit. That comes out to $10,800. I don't have that. I imagine most people don't. If they can't afford 3 months rent to save up to be able to get into a new place when they are evicted at no fault of their own, all of the research shows that they encounter homelessness, housing instability, their kids are displaced from their schools, and they have a serious increased risk of losing their jobs. 1 month's rent for relocation assistance.
Thank you.
Using an impermanent
Our
law.
next speaker is Fernando Peña, followed by Teresa Gebler, followed by John Ebner.
Good evening, Mayor Newsom and members of the City Council. My name is Fernando Peña. I'm here on behalf of the San Mateo County Association of Realtors. I'm here in support of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and I applaud your efforts for having instituted that program and the red tag ordinance improvements. With respect to relocation assistance, I am respectfully requesting that you align your ordinance under state law without additional restrictions that further increase the costs of housing in San Mateo. I also urge you to direct staff to educate renters and housing providers on existing state and local laws and resources that are already available here in San Mateo to them, including the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, Legal Aid, Project Sentinel, City Services, County Services, Mediation Services, Translation Services, and nonprofit support here in our city and county. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Teresa Gebler, followed by John Ebner, followed by Elaine Gilbridge.
Hello, Council. My name is Teresa Gebler. I'm a resident here in San Mateo. The city staff report references a commitment to either research or adopt multiple tenant protection policies to further the FFH goals. The city has done some research but not adopted any of these policies. How is this consistent with the city's Resolution 24, which says the city of San Mateo will continue to serve as a model of inclusion and equity for all of its residents, including immigrants, refugees, and other newcomers who come to choose this, make this their home. Researching the tenant protection policies didn't do a thing to uphold the city's views of itself as a model of equity. Adopting the policies, that would. I encourage the council to adopt more robust protections rather than just researching them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Ebner, followed by Elaine Gilbridge, followed by Ricardo Saucedo.
Good evening, Council. The staff report notes its inability to count how many or why soft evictions occur. Intuitively, this report identifies a rental registry as the most reliable way of capturing essential data on rentals. Staff also concludes that a voluntary reporting system would result in partial, incomplete information. Are you willing to invest city time and money in an admittedly failed approach?
On April 21st, you directed staff to investigate how to obtain granular data on the rental market. That investigation points solely to a registry to do the job. If you are unwilling to implement a rental registry tonight, then please direct staff to do a deep dive to bring you accurate information on upfront costs, crafting, implementation, cost recovery, and other learned experiences from the local jurisdictions who have formed rental registries.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Elaine Gilbrecht, followed by Ricardo Saucedo, followed by Rosa Maria Fonseca.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council. My name is Elaine Gilbrecht. I'm the Executive Officer of San Mateo County Association of Realtors. I'm also the mom of mom and pop housing provider, and that's how I want to speak tonight. So I know that renters want a feeling of security and a sense of stability. That's what I want too. That's what housing providers want. When you make your ordinances, please consider the housing provider and the renter's points of view that everybody wants stability and security. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ricardo Saucedo, followed by Rosa Maria Fonseca, followed by Paola Arellano Rosales.
Buenas noches. Good evening.
Just a second. We'll have an interpreter. Oh, do you need an interpreter? No? Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. How are you? My name is Ricardo Saucedo. I'm here delivering remarks from a dear friend of mine. His name is Guillermo William. I live in an apartment on North Amphet Boulevard in San Mateo for 10 years. I contacted my landlord recently to report some problems in the apartment. I finally, after several months, she came to look at the apartment unit. And shortly after that, she came and wrote me a letter and stating that I have to move out because there are urgent repairs needed. I was forced out, and subsequently, I needed to move into an apartment quickly. It was $600 more than what I am currently renting now. I found out that she did not come to the city to ask for a permit for repairs, and I was never given my security deposit back. As yet, I cannot move back to the unit, and I don't know what to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rosa Maria Fonseca. She will be accompanied by the interpreter, so it will take a little bit longer than 1 minute.
Soy Rosa María Fonseca. Expongo mi experiencia de un desalojo injusto, renta de 8 años.
My name is Rosa Maria Fonseca, and I want to talk to you about my unjust displacement.
Renta de 8 años y en el último mes me desalojan mis cosas del cuarto al patio. Soy estilista, ver mi herramienta botada, mis productos explotando y me dice no puedes entrar ya. Le digo yo tengo pagado el mes, tienes que dejarme quedar, entonces mi cuarto es el patio. Entonces yo como persona de más de 60 años, tener esa experiencia, me pongo a pensar niños que quedan a la intemperie de familias por situaciones adversas, verse en su casa y otro día verse a la intemperie. Les quedan más marcado en su mente. Entonces solamente soy la voz para que nos escuchen a nosotros que pasamos todo ese tipo de experiencias negativas.
Muchas gracias. Ahora el intérprete. Now the interpreter will try his best. Yes.
So I've been renting for 8 years, and this last month I had all my stuff moved out from the room into the patio. And so I said to them, you know what, I think my last month is paid. And so then what happens? My room is turned into like a storage. And so how can a person of my age, 60 plus years, go through something like this? I can only imagine the suffering that kids go through and are actually traumatized. So I am just the voice here to express my own experience.
Thank you. Gracias. Our next speaker is Paola Arellano Rosales, followed by Katie Bond, followed by Trina Pierce.
Good evening, council members. My name is Paola Ariano Rosales. I grew up in this county, in Redwood City for the most part, but I also had the privilege of living in San Mateo for nearly 3 years. And during that time, it really became a home for my family. And when I had to leave the household, my family wished they could stay here, but simply couldn't because of the high cost of rent. And of course, many others face even harder and more dire situations. As a result of raising rents, families are doubling up, tripling up in order to make rent. Workers who serve this city move far away to find a place they can afford, and ultimately, residents are being displaced. It was really disheartening to see the renter-led proposals dismissed at the April studies session. These were ideas that came from lived experience of those that were most impacted. Behind every eviction is a person, is a family, and is a story. Short-term relief may help in the moment, but families need long-term stability to be able to remain here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Katie Bond, followed by Trina Pierce, followed by Gabrielle Laughlin.
Hi, I'm Katie Boyd, and I've been a resident of San Mateo for 18 years now, currently living just a few blocks from here. And I'm here because I want to speak out in support of members of our community who rent their homes. Given how expensive rent is here, and given recent federal disruptions to programs that protect our community, including SNAP and the ACA, I urge you to prioritize, to continue taking further steps to protect tenants. I'm really proud of our community of San Mateo and the ways the council has prioritized tenant rights, and I hope we'll do even more to prioritize these protections going forward.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Trina Pierce, followed by Gabrielle Laughlin, followed by Christian Izquierdo.
Good evening, Mayor Newsom and council members. Being a landlord who experienced unethical and wrongful judgment, I know too well landlords are hurting worse than many of the tenants. Tenants walk away or get help. Landlords are there to fight to keep their homes that their grandparents, their parents gave to them. Our city should represent landlords as well as tenants. Each group should be given a fair judgment as lies are being thrown around. To allow tenants to go to these agencies and work the system in a negative way to get what they want is unethical. And today our city grants that, and that's just not right. Now, people are wondering why we have not enough renting of housing, and it's because of what happens to landlords that are trying to do a good job. There are bad landlords and there are bad tenants. So I just hope you guys
Thank
treat
you.
each one individually.
Our next speaker is Gabrielle Laughlin, followed by Christian Izquierdo, followed by Mitch Spurgeon.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been driving for 10 hours in the last 30 hours. I flew down here just this past week to try to rent out for the first time in a year and a half my properties. I have 2 houses on 1 lot. They've been vacant for a year and a half. I have one in Bakersfield. It's been vacant since January. I drove to Bakersfield yesterday. I've just learned about this meeting tonight, and I actually drove back this morning. I was there for just a short time. So I'm not prepared, but I just want to say I'm suffering post-traumatic stress disorder. I had a slip and fall artist of a tenant who took my entire life savings. These laws keep changing. It's a landmine out there. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm a hands-on landlord. I had my back x-rayed last week for all the damages to it from all the work I've done. I've invested, and I hope that you consider that I want to rent.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Christian Izquierdo, followed by Mitch Spiegel, followed by Kareem Sernat.
Good evening, council members. My name is Christian Izquierdo, and as a longtime renter, I have taken a lot of interest in these discussions about renter issues. I was here in April and heard the presentation by the real estate industry. They said that building new housing is the answer. Over the long term, maybe it is. But that does nothing for the people who are currently living on the edge, living in constant fear of being forced from their community and from their homes. The current housing crisis requires a full-throated response. It requires that we use all of the tools available to us. Protection is one of them. Please use it. Don't be indifferent to those who are suffering right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mitch Spiegel, followed by Kareem Surnaf, followed by Martin Elliott.
Hi, City Council. How you guys doing today? First, I want to celebrate the use of the rental assistance program. As staff mentioned, non-payment of rent is the #1 cause of eviction, and San Mateo is leading the way in solving that problem while preserving the ability to create supply. I'm a renter in District 5, a constituent of Adam Lorraine's, and I want to just let City Council to dig a little deeper into the red tag ordinance, looking into the checks and balances of a panel versus sole arbiter. These cases are often complex, and solving them requires multiple viewpoints and perspectives. I'd also ask that the council maintain the payments per HUD guidelines. HUD rents are already the benchmark for affordability across jurisdictions. Section 8, low-income housing tax credits, and many other programs utilize them as that benchmark. This creates predictability and stability for both tenants and housing providers. By changing the amount of payment, it creates misaligned incentives. The purpose of displacement payments is not to punish the owner. It's to create accountability and urgency to solve the problem. Misaligning incentives empowers bad actors to remain in temporary housing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kareem Surnaf, followed by Martin Elliott, followed by Roby Lynn Antonio.
Good evening, Council. I wanted to address outreach, and I wasn't going to speak tonight, but when I heard Rachel Horst's presentation, I had to say something. I went to a Project Sentinel event last month, and there were 8 people there that showed up. One staff member from San Mateo, Jennifer Mora, your assistant, and 3 people from Project Sentinel, and then 4 others, including myself. So you're either doing a really good job in outreach or a really lousy job in outreach. I didn't see anybody else here on the stage there at Project Sentinel. So again, I don't know if more outreach is needed or less or what, but I think it's really simple. Just align, like Mr. Pena said, align your muni codes to state law. Plain and simple. Done. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Martin Elliott, followed by Roby Lynn Antonio.
Thank you, Council, for your time tonight. I also felt compelled to speak to this after seeing the presentation. I'm afraid the camel's nose is under the tent. It's not going to stop with what's in front of you right here. It's going to continue to go on and on. The thing that drew my attention right off the fact was the data talking about 161 unlawful detainers in 2019. So if you assume that there's 20,000 rentals in San Mateo, 20,000, so 161 divided by 20,000, that's 0.8%. That means that 98.2% of the properties did not result in an eviction. If you want to cut it down to 10,000, then that means about 98% of the properties did not result in an eviction. There is no major problem here. There's a lot of advocates pushing and pushing on this, but the voice of the landlords are not being heard. By the way, what is the percentage of the rent that is allocated to property tax? A $2 million home will cost you $2,000 a month.
Thank you. Our next
Property
speaker
tax, and
is
you
Roby
must
Lynn
pay those
Antonio.
bills.
For this last speaker in chambers, I misplaced her request to speak in the regular public comment. This was a request made last week per rules and procedures for organized presentation. So we will update the timer to 5 minutes. Our speaker is Roby Lynn Antonio.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Roby Lynn Antonio with the California Apartment Association. We are a trade association that represents rental property owners and operators of rental housing. First, I wanted to review and talk about the importance of knowing your rights, protections, roles, and responsibilities. And I want to go over some of the, now that you're looking at potentially new laws, of what the current regulations are for the city of San Mateo. We all are regulated under fair housing protections, which says that you cannot discriminate based on race, color, sex, gender, familial status, source of income, or immigration status. Furthermore, under state law, there's a concept called residents' right to safe and exclusive possession. And what that means is that for every lease in California has two implied terms. One is the covenant of quiet enjoyment, which provides a tenant must be free from substantial interference with their use of the property. And two, warranty of habitability, which provides that rental units must be fit to live in. These protections are also codified in state and health and safety codes. Furthermore, on harassment and retaliation protections, Civil Code 1942.5 makes it unlawful for a landlord to increase rent, decrease services, force a lessee to leave involuntarily, or bring an action to recover possession or threaten to do any of those acts for the purpose of retaliating against the tenant based on their lawful and peaceful right under the law, including making a complaint about habitability or participating in a tenants association or advocacy groups. Furthermore, Civil Code 1942.2 also makes it unlawful for a housing provider to do any of the following to influence a renter from vacating a dwelling unit. Removing a renter's personal belongings from the unit, extorting the renter, threatening to use force, willful threats, or menacing conduct, or threatening to disclose information regarding immigration or citizenship of the renter. So last year, in 2024, there were 126 bills that were introduced in the state that had a significant impact on the rental housing industry. They went into effect this year, which includes security deposit documentation requirements, positive rent payment reporting, screening fee reforms, fee prohibitions, protections for survivors in domestic violence, and balcony inspections. Last year, just this year, there were 18 very significant bills that CAA felt were elevated to priority bills because they had a major impact on rental housing. And so we are actually preparing for our compliance webinar for these new laws to take shape in 2026, which includes temporary eviction protections for renters experiencing delay in Social Security benefits, post-disaster obligations for property owners and renters' rights to return to repaired units, opt-out requirements for bulk internet service agreements, modernized procedures for returning security deposits, and requirements to provide refrigerator and stoves in rental housing. As you can see, there are so many laws already. We keep adding more laws. The city should not be adding anymore. If anything, the city should be providing support to rental housing providers and also to the renters to understand what these new laws mean. So since this is so technical in nature, CAA did do a technical review on the ordinance before you tonight, and we've outlined them in 5 different areas. One was corrected tonight with the proper citation regarding no fault versus at fault terminations, but others talked about payment procedures for the relocation payment. And since the city already decided to follow 1482 and you want to be consistent with that, we're asking for some of these payment procedures to also be consistent with 1482. Regarding noticing requirements, we are not opposed to that. However, we would like extra time to provide some notice since we are going into the holidays. And also, when looking at the ordinance, one must to look at the implied definition versus intent, implied versus expressed. So we did submit requests for clarifying languages to make sure that some of these policies that you suggested in April are expressed versus implied. And lastly, we want to help with the promotion of the rental assistance program because the number one reason for displacement in San Mateo is non-payment of rent, 92.5%. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to our virtual environment. Our last speaker will be Amy. Our first speaker will be Brendan Aiello.
Hi, this is Brendan. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Hi, I'm a lifelong San Mateo resident. Actually went to high school with Adam Lorraine. I am dedicated my career to being a housing provider. I'm kind of happy that I went towards the end because so many of the other housing providers have made such great statements, like Roby talking about refrigerators being now a habitability clause. So for some reason, if the refrigerator is broken, that can be habitability. Paying a per diem at a market rate is what's being proposed. If power goes out with PG&E, I doubt they're going to be paying all the houses affected a per diem at a market rate for the refrigerators affected. Landlords are being held to unsustainable things. I have since advised anyone especially in a single family house, to if someone moves out, not to re-rent. So I have several vacant houses that are just waiting to see what laws are going to do. I recently had someone beg me who's having medical treatments to have a daughter move into my thing short term, and I said I couldn't do that because the law doesn't let me do a short term lease. The California law, or the laws being proposed, are making it so people can
Thank
live there for
you.
as long as they want.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gina Pappen.
Thank you very much. I would like to reiterate the fact that there are so many state laws coming forward for all jurisdictions, both tenant protection and realtors or property owners. We need to determine how these laws will affect each and every one impacted by them. The Tenants Bill of Rights exists for another 5 years. We need to evaluate how that is working, and that will be benefiting everyone here. To bombard at both sides is unfair and should be really dealt with in such a manner that we know what works and what doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker in our virtual environment is Emmy Oshudo.
Hello, are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Amy, I think we lost you. All right. That concludes public comment for item 20.
Thank you all tonight for coming out and for all the public comments. We will now open this up to questions, comments, and eventually a motion from the council. Who would like to go first? Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
Thank you to everyone who is here, who was part of the presentation, and to all the public commenters. We take this seriously, and when we directed city staff back in April to focus on emergency rental assistance, we did because that was the overwhelming cause for eviction. And that seems only in terms of the Stanford Law data to have increased. So I want to thank Samaritan House and Project Sentinel and staff for implementing this. I'm hoping that we can get the money out even faster because I'm sure there are more people. And that comes back to, I think a number of people made the comment of, how do we do outreach? Outreach is always an issue for city programs, but we need to scour the country, scour California. What are new ways that we can get the information out and get people to take advantage of the programs that exist both at the state and the local level? I'd also like to ask my fellow council members and city staff if at the whatever appropriate time when we're reviewing budgets, we could consider raising it from $150,000 to $200,000 a year. That's not, that's a drop in the bucket, but it is a sizable drop. So I would love that to be evaluated and thought about by staff and also my fellow council members. Then I guess I'm interested in, there was a comment made at the end about clarifying language. I am not a person to say you should clarify it this way or not that way, but I would say we should take a look at that. And there were a couple of speakers tonight who, and I'm sure Chantal, you would have the information. One who talked about how they haven't been able to get their deposit back, and actually both of them. And I think that would be great to get information to find out. And if there are trends and things that we don't know about, how can we work with people to get the information so we can address it? So with that, if you bring up what we're supposed to be. Looking at. Okay, great. So I'm supportive of the two ordinances, adding and amending, and finding the ordinances exempt. And I am supportive of directing staff to pursue collection of rental property data on a voluntary basis via the business tax certificate filing. And my question is, what if it's going to take 4 to 6 months to be implemented? I would love to have, at a certain point that's appropriate, to have an update on what we find. Thank you.
Councilmember Swerko-Kadicki.
Thank you. And I want to thank city staff for a great presentation and for everybody for coming out tonight to share your thoughts. I think Councilmember Lisa Diaz-Nash encapsulated a lot of the sentiment that I feel. And so I just want to echo her comments and say that I agree with her and support her. And I would be in favor of exploring increasing the relocation assistance from $150,000 to $200,000. Thank you.
Councilmember Fernandez.
I want to thank staff and all of our speakers who took time out of their evening to be here with us tonight. You could be doing other things, so we really appreciate it, but that's how important this topic is. So a couple of questions that I will direct to Rachel. Actually, probably not Rachel. It's actually probably more Alex. But we utilize, just going back to the piece from Councilmember Diaz-Nash with regards to outreach and how essential that is, and that came up in our public comment a little bit. We utilized some pretty new to us strategies when we were advertising for recruiting for commissioners with regards to doing ads on podcasts and like on Hulu, I believe. We partnered with the school district. Is there any strategies we could use to advertise this rental assistance? And do we have a budget for that outreach? Because I know we've given it to Samaritan House, but are we doing anything ourselves?
So now we've just recently established this rental fund. So this came before the council. The council approved this back on July 28th. By the time we set up the process, working with Samaritan House, getting it up and running, we're barely just getting up and running. And I was glad to see that it's already being utilized. I believe at $24,000 in 12 households, 28.
Yeah, 28.
Okay. 28,000 in 12 households. So there are different ways of being able to go out and engage the community. And you hit on a lot of the digital pieces. That's like utilizing Spotify, a lot of the streaming stuff that we typically haven't, we just recently did. And that's how we saw an increase in our applications for our boards, commissions, and committees. But really tried and true, and something I'll work with the housing staff and work with our community development department is we have to go to them. They can't come to us. And that is something that we got to look at doing. Recently, First Congregational Church, we were out there this past summer, I think, with Pastor Alvaro. It was a great event. We had over 60 people, so that they know how to organize and get out there. And if we go out there, we can get in front of a lot of tenants and really engage on this. That's one of the many ways that we can look at moving forward.
Okay. And just given the demographics of the city, I would appreciate if we could perhaps focus some of those strategies for outreach in mine and Councilmember Swerko-Kadicki's districts, as our districts tend to be the more under-resourced or salary-wise. So I would appreciate consideration of that. My other question, and this is for Rachel, So one of the public speakers made a comment about AB 1482 sunsetting in 5 years. Just as someone who lives in the housing world, has there been any discussion of continuing that, of that being extended? Do you have any insights into that?
I do not have insights about whether it's under consideration to be extended.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So those are all of my questions. And I am basically with Councilmember Diaz-Nash and Councilmember Swicker-Gaditsky, where I'm in favor of all 4. Thank you.
Mayor Newsom, if I can just chime in here real briefly. So the ordinance, like AB 1482, is also scheduled to sunset in 5 years because it's deeply intertwined with AB 1482. It really incorporates or Civil Code 1946.2 by reference. So because that code section is scheduled to sunset, the ordinance is also scheduled to sunset at the same time. So if in the future the state law changes, then there will be ample opportunity to come back to the council and make appropriate amendments to the ordinance. But I also want to make that clear for the council.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm in covering everything. So I'm in favor of all 4 items, and then I'm also in favor of the increase to the fund at Samaritan House. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, through the mayor. Ms. Horst, thank you for your presentation. Mr. Hopper. I did have a question about the right to return language that I saw in a slide you presented tonight. One of the very first ones, in fact, relating to the housing element H 3.6. I was a little surprised by our admin report for this item because it appeared, what we have before council tonight refers to just a notification really of tenants when there's a substantial remodel that those tenants who were in a unit that had that remodel will receive some sort of notification, but there's not any more to what we are proposing adding to our language beyond that. And I think, frankly, I wanted to ask my fellow council members if that sounded to them to be in line with what they intended in April when we talked about this item. Does anyone have anything to say on that? I feel personally that I went back and looked at our recording and I saw some discussion from multiple council members that in my mind seemed to indicate that there was interest in potentially bringing forth some kind of right of return, more than just a notification, at least giving a tenant who was displaced from a unit who had a remodel an opportunity, perhaps a first opportunity to reapply at the new market rate of the unit. And I heard multiple people talk about the new market rate of the unit, but was there any interest there, or am I imagining things?
Mr. Mayor, through the mayor, I will, in responding to Deputy Mayor Lorraine, I will tell you that where we landed was where I thought we would land and should land.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to confirm that. Does that sound true to others as well?
And my only other comment on that would be that the notice does open them up to potentially coming back to rent again. It's not mutually exclusive, right? So, I guess what you're asking is, do we go one step further and guarantee them the first right But that's not what I think we planned on. I think we just planned on wanting to make sure they knew that the rental unit was available again.
Okay.
If I remember that, oh, I'm sorry. If I remember the discussion correctly, I believe the notification was the key portion that we were keen on. I don't necessarily know that it was the rate at which we return or how much they paid at the point of return.
Okay. I appreciate that from my colleagues. And Ms. Horst, Rachel, I just want to ask, in fact, I wonder if we might be able to go back to that slide you had on H3.6. I think it was one of the very first ones you shared with us. Thank you. Oh, well, I apologize. Maybe it was the one right before it. Thank you very much. So I was saying H3.6 and what I meant to say was 3.4, this slide. Because I was surprised in the presentation that it seems here I see in the second bullet, make recommendations to the city council for establishing tenant protection policies, et cetera, and a right to return policy for tenants displaced from homes. So do you feel that what's before council tonight satisfies the totality of our discussions related to fulfillment of this policy?
Before Rachel answers the question, the housing element policy just on its face requires staff to make recommendations to the council. It doesn't actually require the council to adopt a right of return policy. The implementation is making a recommendation, and then that satisfies that element of the policy. Then it's up to the council to decide what to do. And what the council decided was really what has already been articulated by staff, is to provide a notification to the tenant who had vacated the unit that the unit is now available, not available at the prior rent, not a right of first refusal, simply notification.
Okay, thank you. I may have one more question or two. Rachel, you also had a note in one of these earlier slides that indicated, I think you may have vocalized that we're not currently collaborating with 21 Elements in ABAG on rental trends. I think it was this slide. Thank you very much. And I gathered that was because there may not be like a regional program currently underway. Is that right?
That's correct. If there were, we would be participating. It just hasn't materialized.
Okay. Do we expect that to change in the near future?
My recollection, having discussed this with 21 Elements, is that that's not something that is part of their work plan at the moment. So I don't know when that will change.
I see. Well, that's disappointing. Thank you for that. Suppose those are my questions. I won't try to take too much time with comments. I do understand that we had a study session in April and a majority of council members made recommendations that are before us tonight in the form of this ordinance. To the questions before council tonight, I would generally support what is proposed, including seeking voluntary information on business tax, And I think that's generally what's being asked here. You know, I will support introducing the ordinance. I support council members indicating interest in reviewing the amount allocated for the rental assistance program that's been established. I think I'll just note I appreciate those who supported outreach toward ensuring we use all of what we have. And so certainly if we manage to accomplish using all of what we have, I think that would be a good advertisement for consideration of increasing it next time. I guess I will just note that I wish we had done more to I think fulfill the protection of current residents to prevent displacement part of our housing element. To me, I saw that as a charge to consider what I feel in April were some fairly minor common sense additions to our code. And I feel that in absence of that, we really need to use what we're asking for to the hilt. I am very hopeful that as many business tax license holders as possible in our city will voluntarily supply this information that we're asking, because without a rental registry or some other way of obtaining that information, if we don't receive it, then we may find ourselves a couple years down the road still not quite capturing what all is going on in our city and how we can best protect people to prevent displacement. So I am hoping that people will do what they can to help in that element. And I guess those are my comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I will say this. I am very sympathetic to the cost of living. I'm a homeowner, and I too struggle with monthly costs. And so, I don't think that this is something that is exclusive to renters or homeowners. It's just, unfortunately, the sign of the times. And I think that we as a city council have been doing as best we can and are doing as much as we can to try to make sure that we fix and work against the loss of federal funding. So that said, I think that I'm also very happy with, AB 1482. It's been in place less than 2 years, and clearly, based on the Stanford study, it's working. I also am happy to hear that our rental assistance program has already helped 12 families, and we've only done it to the tune of 28,000 of the 150,000. That said, I am in support of increasing that amount, and I also hope that as we see that we might be depleting that we bring it back to the council for consideration if we should put more into that fund. With between 93 and 97% of people who are being displaced needing rental assistance, I think that has a far greater impact in helping our community. I also think that what I heard and what I've seen is that we definitely need to do more outreach, and I think that that's going to be key for however we move forward. We have to make sure that we continue to do outreach, and outreach means we go out to people, not we expect them to come to us. And that means that we're going to have to find other modes and media to do that. We've been doing that successfully, as Councilmember Fernandez mentioned, with our outreach for boards and commissions, and I hope we can learn lessons from that. I hear too that, 1482 sunsets in 5 years, and so does our ordinance. So, the challenge obviously is that we continue to gather information and that we make sure that whether the state put a law in place or we have to in 5 years, that we do that. I think another thing that we kind of didn't maybe cover, which I'd like to mention, is that I think it's important that we do a deep dive into our business license fees. So, I've worked most of my career in the printing industry. I know a little something about databases. And I think what we should be doing is taking the registry from the county of all properties. And if they are not, owner occupied, we should then be looking to see who owns those and reaching out to homeowners. And I think we can work with CAA as well to make sure that they are registering for the business license fee. The real way to get data is to make sure that we do that. And also that will help pay for the research that it's doing. That fee of collecting business licenses from many, I think, who are single rental owners, and maybe not all live in the city of San Mateo, so they didn't all get the memo. So I think we should really make it a task to do a deep dive and to make sure that everyone who owns rental property in San Mateo has a business license, and that will give us data that we can work with. We already talked about the return, so that's great. I guess to conclude, my recommendations are in support of 1 and 2. Actually, I'm really in support of all the things we discussed. And I'd like to make sure that we do bring back for future review, increasing the amount of rental assistance, and that we keep that as an open, ongoing amount to look at when it gets depleted in the future. Is that all we need? Okay. Yeah. One more thing, please.
Question for Zach. One of the last organized presentation said that there'd been a request for some clarifying language, and one thing was done, but there were others that had not been addressed. Is that something that staff can take a look at, or if you have a position on it?
Maybe I'll look to Rachel to start that response, and then I can fill in after that if needs.
Oh, sure. We did receive several requests for clarification, some of which are to align more closely with AB 1482, some of which were to simply clarify what the requirement is. That it is quite a lengthy list. So I can go through them. But
yeah, I'm just most concerned that they're all responded to, and if there's anything that's substantial, that we understand what that is.
Yes, I'm struggling to summarize them all because they are kind of specific. But aside from the change we already made, some of them are. I may look to the city attorney too for assistance on this because some of them are very specific.
So just really quickly, it's the California Apartment Association. They had their attorneys look through, and these are policy questions lists. It doesn't impact this ordinance whatsoever and the legality of it. If you wanted to go through line by line of what the California Apartment Association would like to do, then you can't take action this evening. We would have to hold off and go through the details of this one by one.
Yeah, I'm not looking to make any policy decisions. I just wanted to make sure if there were questions that were asked, they were answered. That's all.
Yeah, certainly happy to assist Zach and Rachel in responding to the questions. I mean, I did review the list. It is a long list of policy-related questions. The one change that was made, the clarifying change, was to the citation that was already mentioned during the presentation. But certainly happy to assist staff in responding to the questions.
I was talking about technical. I'm not interested in policy decisions. So. Thank you.
I think this issue is also coming back in February or March next year.
So that's just an update overall. It wouldn't be the ordinance itself.
But we could get an update on those technical questions.
They're more policy questions than technical. And so there could be a whole debate around each policy question if you wanted to.
Got it. Okay. So do we need to motion?
Jose, can I get a motion?
I motion to move forward with the ordinance.
Can I clarify? So if you look at the screen, so the staff recommendation is to introduce two ordinances, one with the citation correction already mentioned, and to make the CEQA finding, and then also to provide direction to staff on pursuing rental property data on a voluntary basis.
All right. I motion what Prasanna just said.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Sverker-Goditsky,
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lorraine,
Yes.
Mayor Newsom,
Yes.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. All right, we now move on to our next public hearing item. This is item 21, Station Park Green Specific Area Plan Amendment. We will have a presentation from Stephen Lizarago, the Assistant Planner.
Okay, well, good evening, Mayor Newsom and council members. I'm Stephen Lizarago, Assistant Planner and Staff Planner for Agenda Item 21 this evening, a public hearing for Planning Application 2025-048 for 430 Station Park Circle, or otherwise known as Station Park Green. The item before the council this evening is a specific plan and design guidelines amendment and other modifications to the existing Station Park Green specific plan. The project site, highlighted on the map on screen, focuses on the structure at 430 Station Park Circle. It is located just north of State Route 92 and is bounded by South Delaware Street, Concord Drive, and Station Park Circle. The property contains an existing 5-story mixed-use building and is within a half-mile of the Hayward Park Caltrain station. The property is surrounded by office buildings to the south, a shopping center to the southeast, multifamily residential to the north, and single-family residential to the east. The original specific plan, design guidelines, and initial study/mitigated negative declaration was submitted in 2007 and approved in 2011. In 2015, a formal planning application for the project and modification to the specific plan was approved. The completed project includes one mixed-use building highlighted in yellow, and that's building MU-1, and 3 residential buildings across nearly 12 acres containing 599 housing units, over 36,000 square feet of ground floor commercial space, a community room, and a 2.3-acre park. The current application proposes to modify the previously approved specific plan and design guidelines for the required office and retail spaces. This is because in recent years, since project completion, building MU1 has had challenges with filling the retail spaces, and currently all spaces are empty. The applicant proposes to modify the specific plan to change the ground floor uses. As you can see on the floor plans on the slide, the orange shaded retail spaces would be swapped for the blue shaded office spaces. The applicant also proposes to modify the language in the specific plan and design guidelines to allow for offices, and these proposed modifications to the required language are found in attachment 8. The remaining 3 retail spaces along Concord Drive, these spaces here, are of particular focus of this presentation. The community room would also be relocated to a new space along Concord Drive as well. Currently, the maximum range for the office space is restricted to 15,000 square feet, while retail and restaurants must maintain 25,000 square feet. The applicant proposes to increase the allowable office space to 35,000 square feet while reduce the minimum allowed required amount of retail space to 3,000 square feet. These ranges allow for the property owner to have flexibility in changing the uses depending on future market conditions. Since the changes proposed are within the existing structure, there are no changes proposed to the overall square footage of the building or to existing parking conditions. A transportation consultant analysis found that the change in use would not generate significant traffic impacts. And additionally, since the site is within a half mile of the Caltrain station, additional parking requirements are not required as due to AB 2097. Both the applicant and the city have performed retail analyses of the retail spaces at the site. The applicant provided a viability report stating that the overall market conditions and other factors such as lack of clearly visible parking and lack of retail synergy with the surrounding area have negatively impacted the success of retail on site. The city-led consultant report found that the high cost of making infrastructure improvements, particularly for restaurant spaces, and lack of clear signage have also affected the site's success. As such, the consultant recommends that the property owner maintain the corner space, it was space I on the plans, as a restaurant space due to the infrastructure that was installed, and to construct improved signage to better attract customers. Additionally, for space A, a more flexible quasi-retail use is proposed to allow for tenant rental flexibility. Staff has also worked with the applicant to develop conditions of approval for the applicant to provide either tenant improvements or rent concessions to potential tenants in the remaining retail spaces. Other conditions allow for the flex retail and nonprofit office use, signage improvements, and enhancing the public areas to create a more active corner. The applicant is also voluntarily providing additional community benefits for improvements to local neighborhood parks. An initial study / mitigated negative declaration was completed as a part of the original application. In 2014, as a part of the amendments to the specific plan, an addendum was provided as prescribed under CEQA provisions 15162 and 15164. In short, since the changes were not significant, additional environmental review was not required. For this application, a second addendum was also drafted as the modifications were not significant under those same CEQA provisions. Under the General Plan 2040, the project is located in the mixed-use medium 2 land use designation. In the zoning code, the project is located within the San Mateo Rail Corridor Transit-Oriented Development Zoning District, and more specifically, the Hayward Park Station TOD Overlay Zone. Staff has reviewed the project and determined that the changes are consistent with these codes and policies. And this project is within the Station Park Green specific plan, which is why we're hearing it this evening. The applicant held a neighborhood informational meeting on March 19th that was attended by 18 guests. One comment was received in advance of the Planning Commission hearing, with the primary concern being employee parking in the adjacent neighborhood. No comments have been received in advance of the City Council meeting. The Planning Commission heard the meeting at the October 28th, the Planning Commission heard the project at the October 28th meeting. One public comment was received during the meeting, with the speaker providing concerns about the lack of retail in the overall development. The commissioners agreed that having utilized an occupied office space was better than having empty retail space, but also had concerns about the access and use of the community room. In the end, they unanimously recommended the project to the City Council for approval. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt an addendum to the initial study / mitigated negative declaration pursuant to CEQA provisions 15162 and 15164, and adopt a resolution to amend the Station Park Green specific plan and Station Park Green design guidelines to change the mix of floor area allowed for retail and office uses based off of the findings for approval and subject to the conditions of approval. Thank you. I can answer any questions now, or we can move on to the applicant's presentation.
Thank you. Do we do applicant's presentation? Thank you. Welcome, Chris.
Trust. We're the owner of Station Park Green. In addition to working for Essex, my wife and I and several members of our extended family call San Mateo our home, and proud to be a resident of the city. I'm here tonight to talk about the Station Park Green project. First, to give you a little of a history of the community. We built this project. It was finished back in 2018. And it's, as it mentioned, consists of the 599 homes. So over 1,000 residents call this home. And this is actually part of the solution. This is how we produce more housing. 60 of the homes here are below market rate to provide some of those opportunities for citizens. Can we switch to the next slide, please? So the residential community has been a real success. We've had over 95% occupancy throughout the history of the project. The retail, by contrast, has really not succeeded. We've got 10 to 11 retail spaces here. Only 3 of them have ever even had a tenant in these 7 years, and all 3 of those have shut up operations and left before their leases were even up. This is not for us not trying. We have worked hard with a couple of different retail brokerage firms. We've reached out to over 1,400 retailers to try to get them in this space, offering concessions and so forth. We have every incentive to want these to survive. We have plenty of residents upstairs that would love to have these things, and we certainly like some revenue out of this space. So it's not for trying. The result physically to the property, as you can see in the picture up here, has been sort of a dark and empty feel as you walk by. The lights are out. In fact, some people in the city said, is your project like half empty? Does anybody live in this place? And so it's completely full, and yet you don't get that sense walking around. And these are some of the main pathways to the train station down the road. So that emptiness is not the greatest way to get people to use the transit, which we all like. So if we switch to the next slide. So that brings us to the proposal before you tonight. We wish to change some of the allowed use of the space to allow office instead. And we will keep some well-located retail spaces. It is our hope that by placing those along the pathway, the Concar passageway, that'll be the most used and likely to succeed space. We will use the center or the corner plaza at Delaware and Concar for one of those spaces, hopefully a coffee shop. The other one, maybe hopefully a sort of a to-go, some sort of food thing that would be useful not only for the commuter traffic coming and going, but the neighborhood as well as our residents there. So that is our hope in trying to keep some retail here. The rest of the office space will be our new corporate offices. Essex, if you're not familiar with the firm, is a Fortune 500 New York Stock Exchange company. We want to stay in San Mateo. We've been here for a long time. Our lease is up. Roblox is eating up space like nobody's a business these days. And so we want to come where we know we've got a safe environment for years or decades to come. And so this isn't some speculative office. This is us. And this is where I will go to work each day down the hill from where I live. So we're excited about that. As mentioned, we're going to relocate the community room to be adjacent to these retail spaces along Concar. That should give it better visibility. And this facility, just to remind everybody, was put in originally with the construction of this community, and it is open to the public. It's free of charge. We have not had a lot of usage to this space, and we are going to work with staff and with the city to really promote that, whether it's on the website, some advertising. One of the council members suggested to me that we have some better signage, really, so as people walk by, say, hey, I can rent this, I can use this, because it's a great facility. We spent the money to do it, and nobody's using it. So we're going to try to really enhance that. So some of these visuals that you see here are evidence of the improvements that we'll make. Not only will there be people around and lights on at night and during the day, but we're going to enhance it with string lights, landscaping, seating, and so forth, and make it a more vibrant environment rather than that closed sort of dark feeling that you saw in the previous things. So switching to the next slide. These are some of the pictures of the existing community room. We will recreate this. It is both a office setting where we've got sort of a conference and small meeting room, as well as a large gathering place. So community organizations can hold their events here, neighborhood associations, or a birthday party or any other kind of use. It will be functioning for a lot of different things. And as you said, we will work diligently with the city to help promote this, have a reservation system so it's very easy for people to use the facility. So then to summarize just the benefits of this, we will activate the streetscape with all of the improvements that I mentioned. This is a picture of the Key Corner Plaza at Delaware and Concar. If you've driven by this, the landscape could use some refreshing. The string lights will be kind of an outdoor dining. People say, hey, what's that? Let me go see what's happening here. This is a particularly interesting plaza too, because as you can see on the left, that is one of the retail spaces, hopefully a coffee shop there. To the right is our office space. And right in the middle of the two of those is an entrance for the residents. So this is a true mixed-use plaza and entryway. And this is one of the areas that we'll be working with staff and I think a condition of approval to really work in our tenant improvement stuff to focus on this area and make it that focal point that we all want. In addition, as was mentioned, we've offered the city staff kind of challenged us, how can we provide some benefits to the community? We've done that in the form of a monetary contribution that the city can use to improve some of the neighborhood parks, which we feel proud about that. We get to stay here as an employer in the city, which we want to do. And again, just to reiterate, we're not adding any new spaces to any of the buildings. All of the space exists. We're just using it for a different purpose. We have all the parking within the building itself, and we have plenty of it. So that comment from the neighboring community, we will not have any parking flowing out into other uses and so forth. So with all that, we ask for your support for our proposal. And at the appropriate time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have of me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. We'll now open it up to public comment.
If you wish to speak on this item and you're participating in a virtual environment, please raise your hand now. If you join us in person, please provide me with your request to speak form. We will now be closing the request to speak period, and we have no request to speak.
Very good. Then we will open it up to the council for questions. Does anybody have? Okay. Councilmember Diaz-Nash has been starting us off all night.
Oh, well, tonight's my night. Anyhow, thank you very much, Mr. Taylor, for the presentation. And I was at least one council member that you met with. So I wanted to disclose that publicly. And I made that comment about getting more signage out to help the community room because it's such a great space. And I would think there are many neighborhoods nearby and neighborhood associations that could make very good use of that space, as well as city staff and others. So I also think it's great that you're making a contribution to help the neighborhood park, because we need more green space as we are more developed. And I walk by that space often and I understand what you're talking about. So I hope that with this, there'll be more interest, and thank you very much.
Yeah, I think this is just a broader general comment about that entire area, because I actually worked at the Crossroads building for about 2 years. There's actually a lot of workers in that area, but yet there's no real marketing or kind of awareness that the downtown is so close by. And when I think about why some of these retailers have failed, I don't know that people are really aware that anything's around there other than the Trader Joe's. And so as we think about our economic development plan, I think there's an opportunity for us to really, think about how do we drive traffic and general awareness to that whole area until the Concar project is there. I did want to ask about the plans for Concar, if there's any update, just because while I appreciate that Essex wants to convert this to their office space, and I am in support of that given all the work they've done to try to get retailers, I do wonder about the long term. Once you have 900 plus units there, having retail so close by will be valuable.
So in terms of the status, it is a pending application that staff is currently processing as an SB 330. So we don't have a defined timeline other than that, but it is an updated proposal from the original 2020 entitlement. We recognize they are serious about moving forward, but we don't have a specific timeline as of yet.
Okay. Well, generally, I'm in support of moving forward with this new plan, but I do think we need to take a bigger look at that area in terms of like what our economic growth plan is, or how do we tie it back to either 25th Avenue or, B Street. So thank you.
Thank you through the mayor. I don't have any questions. I appreciate the applicant's presentation and for sticking with us past some other items to be heard. And I just want to thank staff for working with the applicant on this proposal, which I find reasonable and I think can provide some amenities to people in the area. I am optimistic about the commercial positioned on Concar being something that those who might take the Hayward Park Caltrain station, it'll be right on their walkway as they come out, and having office employees in this building will bring more people to hopefully make use of new commercial tenants who can hopefully come in. I also appreciate the interest in considering a potential nonprofit at the bottom there by the train station. So overall, I just appreciate the work staff's done with this applicant, and I support this. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you to Essex for your presentation. I too met with you. This is really right in the middle of my district. I either ride or walk by this building or drive by this building multiple times a day. So I too have been discouraged. I think there is a lesson for us as a city when we do these mixed use projects going forward to make sure that whenever possible, we encourage the developers to use a retail consultant so that we can try to find ways to make sure that the retail thrives. That said, I think we're pivoting and I think it's the right thing to do. I would, and I've also, in talking to you, heard that there is plenty of parking for Essex employees. That's been a big neighborhood concern, which I'm happy to hear will not be a concern. Additionally, in close proximity to the train station, maybe we'll also see more train ridership and riding to work, which is great too. I do want to thank you for the community benefits, the donations to the neighborhood parks. That really helps, show and highlight to the neighbors how much you want to continue to be part of the neighborhood, and we're very grateful for that. We always need help with city parks, so thank you. And I'm also thrilled to see that Essex will continue to have their corporate headquarters in the city of San Mateo. So for all these reasons, I'm supportive of this moving forward. The only few comments I would mention were, even with the retail being, on Concar and more visible, make sure that we look for signage that says how to park, because one of the things it really lacks is, and we used to go to Beach Hut Deli occasionally, which was one of I think the last holdout there. And, I would tell people, oh, it's great place. And people go, how do you even go there? Like so I would encourage that, you have signage on both Concar and Delaware that says, parking for restaurant parking, for example. Also, if possible, try to figure out a way to carve out a space where there's a 5-minute food delivery pickup, because restaurants nowadays are going to need that, and whether that be just inside the parking lot or somewhere that it's going to be easy access for them. And then, I appreciate and continue to encourage you to promote the community room within the community. I certainly will do so within the district. I know that with the build out coming, or the new re-upping of Station Park Green, that Peninsula Ballet may be looking for practice space, and they currently are just across, the intersection there in the old Circuit City building, I think. Boy, that makes me feel old. Okay, so anything you can do to continue to outreach, and we will help you, hopefully, with nonprofits, would be really appreciated. That said, this seems to be a good fit for a problem, and I'm looking forward to seeing a revitalized street front of Station Park Green. So thank you for your presentation. And what do we need? Do we need a motion? Can I get a motion? And I'll second. Can we please call roll?
Council members for Gogoditsky,
Yes.
Mayor Newsom,
Yes.
Council member Diaz-Nash,
Yes.
Council member Fernandez,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lorraine.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cover. All right, before we move on to adjournment, we will see if the council have any reports and announcements. Who'd like to go? We'll go this way because you've gone first all night.
I'll be quick.
Councilmember Swergo Kadiki.
Yeah. So just a quick thank you to city staff. We've had some pretty intense storms. And I know that a lot of DPW staff and city staff has been working late, and they're doing a great job. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the community. I also wanted to thank the over 80 community members that came out, including the entire city council, for our care package and writing letter event with the Elks Club this past weekend. And I just want to say that it was an incredible turnout. We actually did the whole care package section in 30 minutes. And I want to thank Martin McTaggart, our city clerk, who isn't here, but he was there to kind of get people going with the letter writing. I just really, really appreciate all the efforts. And I think we should try to do this again next year with the Elks. They really want to partner on this. And I also want to thank the San Mateo Daily Journal because they did a great job with the PR on that. Last thing, the San Mateo Police Activities League has Shop with a Cop on Saturday, December 6th. It's at 9 a.m. at Macy's. You want to enter on the Hillsdale Mall Cheesecake Factory side. So it's a great opportunity to come hang out with a police officer, do some Christmas shopping or holiday shopping. So please consider attending. Thank you.
Who's next? We're just going this way. Deputy Mayor.
Nope, nothing for me this
nothing.
time.
He's got
Thank you.
nothing. All right. Go ahead. I'll finish. Go ahead, Nicole.
So I wear two public service hats. One as the council member here in San Mateo, but in my day job, I am the chief of staff for Supervisor Lisa Gaucher, who represents District 4. And so I have been given instructions to say thank you to our staff for being a wonderful partner on the Veterans Day luncheon that occurred last week, Thursday, where we honored a bunch of veterans and had over 250 guests for a free lunch, many of whom were veterans. We had many dignitaries there, but the city was an amazing partner with providing parking and assisting us with having accommodations for those older veterans who couldn't traverse from the garages. You guys made part of that day absolutely incredibly easy. So I just want to say on behalf of my team and Supervisor Gaucher, thank you to the city of San Mateo for being a great partner for that event last week. Thank you.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash, nothing? Wow, that's okay. I've got a couple of minor things. One, there is a San Mateo Consolidated Fire Board meeting on Wednesday night, open to the public. There is also a tree lighting ceremony at Hillsdale Mall on Friday, the 21st. So please come out and join me to light the Christmas tree or holiday tree at the Hillsdale Mall at 6:00 p.m. And with that said, we will not be meeting again before December. So I want to make sure that I wish everyone a good Thanksgiving holiday. And I encourage everyone to go and shop local throughout the end of the month. So thank you all. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Good night.